Barka de Sala to you wherever you're watching us from. It's another day to come your way with the best of content that matters to you. Hi, I'm Bernice Abubeidulansa and this is the AM show. As usual, I'll bring you the news and then we delve into our news review. And today, I'll be joined by the head of European Studies at the University of Ghana, Dr. Assin. We will be delving into the stories. Also, obviously, the big story. The NDC's James Dachikwesen has won big in Assin North. He has been elected MP for the area. With a margin of over 4,000, the embattled MP firmly established his dominance over his opponent, the NPP's Charles Opoku. But all is not over, as he is back in court to face criminal charges. Our panelists will tell us what they believe made him pull this performance against many people's predictions, even as he continues his battle in court. We've also got an interview with the Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Dr. Stephen Amoah. I will be bringing you that. And later on the show, you'd have the chance to join us with your views via phone and on social media. Do stay with us today on the AM show. I'm back shortly with the news. Thanks for staying on the AM show. It's now time to bring you the news. And James Dachikwesen of the NDC will be making a return to Parliament after his constituents kept faith with him and helped him win the keenly contested Assin North constituency by-election on Tuesday. Officials of the Electoral Commission declared him victor, raising his hand to signal the status as NDC officials broke into their revolution chorus. There's more in this report.
Number one, he secured a percentage of 42.15%. Candidate number two secured 0.29%. Candidate number three had 57.56%. By the power in me vested, now total turnout is 74%, 74.23%. Now please can the candidates come. By the power in university.
This is not Kumewu. We took Charles Opoku's money and spent it, but we did not vote for him. These were chants from some jubilant voters in Assin North after the NDC's James Dachikwesen was declared winner of the by-election, which many pundits and connoisseurs have described as the most keenly contested by-election in the Fourth Republic. The The exercise started in the early hours of Wednesday morning with hundreds of voters queuing to cast their ballots. Despite strong assurances of thorough security preparations, there were minor disturbances, including the arrest of an imposter who was clad in a military uniform. This, however, did not distort the flow of proceedings, which was generally described as peaceful. Amidst the process, National Communications Officer of the opposition National Democratic Congress, Sami Jemfi, expressed confidence in his party's victory. According to him, the NPP's candidate was no threat at all, describing him as a political prostitute. But he was not the only one oozing with optimism. The Ashanti Regional Chairman of the ruling New Patriotic Party, Bernard Ntwi, popularly known as Chairman Wutumi, was equally confident about victory.
About 4 catcher, me said Nipa 26,000 now to Sisia.
26,000.
Sisia, me no catcher.
At the moment, the angels have told me that about 26,000 people have voted, out of which the NPP already has 16,000 of those votes.
Yeah, number 16,000.
But after all the results from all the 99 polling stations were received, it was the NDC's James Dechekwesin who emerged victorious with a total of 17,245 votes, representing 57.56% of the total votes cast, with Charles Sopoku of the ruling New Patriotic Party garnering 12,630.
That's a report on what transpired yesterday in Assin North. Let's now hear from Fifi Fiavikwete, who is General Secretary of the NDC, and James Dechekwesin.
Election is a referendum. It's a referendum between the people of Ghana and NPP. And I'm excited because the people of Assin have really spoken what the people of Ghana have been saying all the time. And that is that this government, in the past 7 years, has failed the people of this country. Here we are, where inflation is about 42%. During our time, inflation was 15.5%. And they went on a spree of saying that we have failed as a government. We have failed as a government. Now, here we are, where our pensioners who have worked for so many years are now having to picket just to get the little money that is due them. Our factories have been shut down. Our currency has become a junk currency. You know, with all these things, the people of Assin has spoken the language that the people of Ghana want to hear. And the results are very clear.
Mr. Fifikwete, and then pick a word from him. Thank you very much. Welcome to PM Express.
Thank you very much.
What as a political party, you fought so hard.
Yeah. Let's say, I mean, for us, it actually goes beyond the NDC as a party. It goes beyond the NDC. It's a victory not just for candidate Dechekwesin. It's a victory. It's a victory for truth. It's a victory for justice. And also it's a victory that signals that the people of Ghana are not prepared to sell their soul. That you cannot destroy a nation politically, morally, pervert the systems, the institutions, and come and think that you can buy the soul of the people by throwing what you call last-minute goodies at them, trying to deceive them and so on. So it's a number of great victories beyond just Assin North.
I'm going to engage you further, but let me pick a word from Honorable Joe Dechekwesin. Good evening. Welcome to PM Express.
I thought I just spoke to your counterparts.
No, this is Joy News. PM Express live on TV. Good evening.
Good evening.
You should be happy now by now. Happy man by now.
I've always been happy. Tonight is exceptional because Assin North people have vindicated every court and myself. And they still believe in me, so that makes me happy.
What does this victory mean to you personally? Are there lessons to be shared to the whole world?
Well, I mean, principles and values I work with. And I don't quit easily. so long as I know the cause I'm leading is genuine and it benefits other people. You see, you haven't been in a situation where you have to sacrifice your own life interest for the benefit of others. Until you are there, you will not understand it. Somehow you get an inspiration and you become fearless because you are standing for the truth, you are standing for justice, you're standing for almost everything that benefits other people other than yourself. That is why we have people like the Kwame Nkrumahs and we have people like the Mandelas. All right? Otherwise, somebody has to do it. Somebody has to be in that position sometimes. So I'm very...
What do you tell the people of Assin North for what they have done, the victory they have given?
Well, the victory belongs to them. The victory belongs to Ghana. And the victory belongs to rule of law, justice.
Are you daunted by the fact that you'll be going to court very soon?
No. That's the least of my thought. I'm focused on how I can get Assin North developed. The court can take its own course. I mean, as I said earlier, I have not committed any wrong to worry about what is ahead of in legal terms. No.
All right. Thank you very much, George Achikwesin.
Thank you.
The one that has been declared as the winner of this by-election. Let me come back to Fifi Kwete. So does this election, the results that we are seeing now, does it have a bearing on the 2024 elections?
I would say it's a signal. It's a signal that the country is ready to do everything possible to stop a number of things that are going on. I mean, the destruction of the economy, the destruction of the moral fiber of the country, the perversion of our institutions, the weaponization of institutions to destroy truth and justice. I think a number of things are at stake, and the people of Ghana are signaling that enough is enough.
Did you send sympathy vote, or it was just a referendum on the economy?
I see it's a number of things, so many things together. The people clearly are tired. The people clearly have seen that their economy is destroyed. Their welfare is down. They can see the injustice that was happening. They can see the insults that was happening by last-minute attempt to buy their soul using what you call money and goods. So many things were together. So we see a signal, an awakening, and a message that is being sent to the rest of Ghana.
And what should we be expecting from the NDC as you've chalked this victory? What should we be expecting from you?
We are going to move into high gear. We are going to move into strategy. We are going to move to what you call effective planning towards 2024. And of course, coming up with ideas that we need to be able to revive this economy and restore Ghana again.
It appears that we were very swift in collating this particular result. Under 2 hours, you were able to put together the results and then the jubilation started. I mean, is it a sign of some new development that we should...
We have said it, that some of the mistakes made in the past will not be repeated. I personally have pledged to the country that we will clearly see a coalition system that's different. That's the beginning of things that are happening.
So away from the election in Assin North, we'll be delving into that much later on the show. Though they have more than 50% of them involved in farming, the main challenge they face is access to huge unfertile land. They're often allotted farmlands that are seen to be infertile. That is the challenge faced by women farmers in the Upper West region. At the launch of this year's celebration of the World Day on Desertification and Drought, various stakeholders called for a change in the status quo to enable women who are seen to be better managers of lands go on with their farming activities. Our Upper West Regional correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from WA.
The specific objectives of the celebration is to raise public awareness on the underlying effect of desertification and drought, highlight efforts that are being made to combat desertification and drought, and inspire stakeholder support for the advancement of women's land rights. This year's celebration of the day is on the theme Her Land, Her Rights, Advancing Gender Equality and Land Restoration Goals. Speaking at the launch, Acting Upper West Regional Director of the Environmental Protection Agency, Emmanuel Luknuli, noted that the day is celebrated in June every year to raise public awareness of the effect of gender inequality on adoption of land restoration measures and to encourage stakeholder participation in line with restoration and sustainable land management to combat desertification and mitigate the effect of drought.
Because women do not have adequate access to land and do not have secure land rights, they are often allocated parcels of land that are low in soil fertility. And they often have the fear of losing land when they manage it so well and revive the fertility. They have the fear of losing it to men. So once they do not have secure land rights to manage the land and to restore the fertility and use it continuously, they tend not to invest so much in restoring the infertile lands that are often allocated to them. And this is one of the issues that this year's celebration of the World Day to combat desertification tends to highlight. Because, as we all know, when women have adequate access to land and secure land rights, they tend to manage the land very well. And women also constitute more than 50% of the people that are engaged in agriculture.
Chief Director at the Appiah Coordinating Council, Peter M. Mala, speaking on behalf of Appiah Minister, Dr. Hafiz bin Sali, observed that the core environmental challenges facing the Appiah region are land degradation and the threat of desertification, which in turn threaten ecosystem services such as water flow and quality regulation, carbon storage, biodiversity, soil fertility, and food security.
These problems are exacerbated by factors such as population pressure, illegal mining activities, unsustainable farming practices, deforestation, overgrazing, wildfires, soil nutrient attenuation caused by continuous cropping on marginal lands, and misuse of agrochemicals. This has been a big source of worry for leadership of the region because the majority of our people have agriculture as their only source of livelihood. I'm, however, happy to state that some paramount chiefs in the region have been so instrumental in the efforts to protect our environment. They have instituted bylaws in their paramountcies to discourage such burning and felling of economic trees for charcoal production, with very tough sanctions on offenders. While commending those chiefs for this laudable initiative to protect our environment, I want to call on the rest to emulate the shining examples of their peers.
Some participants shared their thoughts on the day and the team.
So moving forward, we will further engage. We've already had some engagement with the traditional leaders where we even drafted an MOU where some of the paramount chiefs even signed to it. So we are just going back to enhance that kind of collaboration and also go back to those documents and ensure that we are allowing women have access to the land and also have control over the lands. If we are doing this in a collaborative way, then it means that together we can address the issue of
the measures are not actually working. And the more reason why the measures are not working has to do with what? The attitudes of human beings. Human beings appears not to what? I mean, they don't abide to laws, bylaws, etc. I personally think that, if we should do more, if we do more than what we have done so far, I think desertification as well as what? Drought can be curtailed.
Reporting for J News, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Let's focus on education now. And some girls in senior high school avoid science due to their perception that it's a difficult subject. Assistant Headmaster at Accra Girls SHS, Sebastian Adama, says, though the grades of these students from junior high school prove the ability to study science, they often are fearful. Speaking to us during the AIMS Ghana's Africa Science Week, he acknowledged the need to whip up interest among female students in the field.
In a number of schools, science students are deprived the opportunity to take practical lessons in science education. This may be attributed to inadequate laboratory equipment for the practical lessons. Mr. Adama explains what pertains in other schools regarding practical science education is not different to Accra Girls SHS.
When they came, some of them came with good grades to offer science, and then they come back to come and change their course from science to other areas. And you could just see that it's not that they can't do it, but there's some particular fear in them. But most of the things they read. Even if they do the practicals, their numbers, we don't get them to have it as it is going to happen here.
Through the next Einstein Forum's African Science Week celebration, students of Accra Girls SHS were granted practical skills using Dext Technologies Science Set. Girls in the first year science class got the opportunity to perform about 80 experiments from diverse fields of study. Project coordinator for AIMS Ghana, Priscilla Sewajesi, is calling on other senior high schools to support the program to expose students to practical science education.
Because we came here because the school accepted for us to do here. So we plead that for other schools, it's just an opportunity. We don't take anything from you, we just need your involvement and the availability of your students. So get them involved for us to let them know the practicality of the science and STEM we've been talking about.
The African Institute of Mathematical Sciences, AIMS, with the support of Henry Luce Foundation, is rolling out Ghana's edition of the program. For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima reporting.
And the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture says it's committed to protecting the rights of creatives in Ghana. It will do this by making sure their works are properly safeguarded. Deputy Minister for Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, Marco Krekumante, made this known at the signing of an MOU between the Creative Arts Agency and Expertise France. There's more in the following report.
A memorandum of understanding has been signed between the Creative Arts Agency and Expertise France to support the expansion of the music industry in Ghana. Deputy Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture, Mark Okrekumante, says this initiative will go a long way to protect the creative space in Ghana.
Expertise France is here to help with getting the technology on board, sensitizing the industry people. The know-how is very important. Yes, we know up to a degree, but they are masters, they are experts. SACEM, which is the Creative Society of France, has been around for so many years. They've made all their mistakes, they've polished their wrongs, and now they've become masters. It is only prudent that we engage them and we work with them, we collaborate and learn from them.
The Creative Arts Agency CEO, Jan Kroma Akufo-Addo, revealed that there would be capacity building to expose creatives to the gains in the industry.
I mean, we have to be able to make sure that our industry are all encompassed in understanding the knowledge of copyright, intellectual property. Right now, as it stands, our artists and our artists' works are not protected. So I think that it will be also a ripple effect on the professionality that we have for the music industry. These are steps towards digitizing GAMRO, and these are steps towards making sure that every single artist within Ghana understands how to own their work. Copyright and intellectual property.
Director of Sustainable Inclusive Economy at Expertise France, Sylverine Peters Destarach, says the partnership will ensure that property rights of creatives are duly protected.
The first and the main goal of this partnership is to work on property rights. So it's in order to give to the artists, Ghanaian artists, the power and the capability to live from their art.
The project, which starts in June 2023 and ends in June 2025, is funded by the French government. For Joy News, Jacqueline Ansuma Yeboah.
That'll be it for the news here on the AM show. We will be back with the news review. Dr. Asante is my guest. Do stay. good morning to you, and Barakat Salah to all of our Muslim friends. And for those of you who are not Muslim, hope you're enjoying the holiday as well. If you just woke up and switched on your television, one of the biggest stories today is that James Chachukwueze has won the by-election in Assin North. Are you part of those who were surprised, or you expected it? Well, it's time to do a review, and joining me is Head of European Studies at the University of Ghana, political scientist Dr. Assin. Good morning to you, Doc. Would you say that this was what you expected, or you were surprised by the outcome of the by-election?
Good morning, my sister.
Good morning.
I did indicate on your network that Chachukwueze, even though I've not gone to the field to pick data, but looking at the the literature and then the issues on the ground, Chachukwueze had a slight edge over the NPP candidate, and that he will carry the day. It's a matter of I telling you that I told you so. Right. I was expecting such a result. Why? Let me begin by congratulating the NDC. Maybe Baraka Salah is in order for the NDC. And I also congratulate the NPP for, observing the rules of the game and abiding by the rules of elections. But I'll begin by saying that intimidation, harassment, lies, deception, bribery doesn't win anybody in a election. And it's playing out here. All right.
We're losing Doc there. It appears we are having a network challenge. We'll try and rectify that. You can hear the breakages in his sound there. But he was just reacting to James Chachukwueze's election or re-election. I'm careful to use the word re-election because the Supreme Court says his name should be expunged. So it meant that he was considered never elected or never served as an MP. So I'm just being careful in my choice of words there. But he says that this is no surprise to him. You may have realized on social media that pollster Bene Efsin was trending when the news of the polls or the results of the polls started trickling in, indicating that James Chachukwueze had an edge until the final declaration by the returning officer. And there were those who were, as usual, making fun of his prediction. Mr. Bene Efsin had predicted that the NPP will beat the NDC. In fact, he said that Mr. Charles Opoku was going to win by a 4-point margin. And as we all know, that didn't happen. So there's been mixed reactions to this. When we're able to establish a better connection with Dr. Assin, I'll be finding out from him what his thoughts are concerning those who say that this is probably not a vote of confidence necessarily, but it was just people having sympathy for Mr. Chachukwueze, considering the ordeal he went through in court or is still currently going through. Dr. Assin, if you can hear me now, sorry we were losing you. The line was breaking. You were just ending that submission on your thoughts about the elections in Assin North.
Yes, I was saying that intimidation, lies, harassment, deception, bribery doesn't win anybody in an election. It is the power of the people that win election. And when people decide, it doesn't matter what, they will vote the way they want to vote. Look at the message of intimidation, that you go to jail. Yes, you intimidate people like that. They are not worried. They get to the poll and they are there alone in the booth with only God, and then they vote. They vote against you. Because there, they cannot feel the threats of intimidation. They are there alone, and they have the right to exercise their minds. If you look at lies and deception, and of course, it played an important part of this. They were, making fun of him that he was, you heard statement to the effect that he even ran away from this country before going to Canada for certain things, and all manner of negative stories about him. But he didn't win those people anything. The issue of, yes, the two parties were guilty of what I'm going to say also, issue of bribing the electorate with resources, money, and whatnot. It doesn't win anybody any election. Because otherwise, we are saying that whenever there is election, the rich will always win. But it is not the case. What really won the election were, one, issue of what I call RSM, resource, strategy, and message. The NDC were able to what? Have resources to be able to organize themselves very well. Yes, material resource, financial resource, they were resource to the extent that when you follow the TV discussions at the grounds, the election grounds, they were saying that they could see the NDC having resources to marshal all its forces to the place. And remember, they were able to do that and do that effectively by, marshaling resources. In terms of strategy, the NDC had a very effective strategy, the strategy of having an advance party to go there and survey the area and look at the needs of the people that constituency. Well, what we call what? The specific constituency needs. They were able to, the advance party was able to pick that, and they were able to map a strategy that was consistent with the needs of the people, was also right for the people to follow, and the whole machinery of NDC was also moved there to follow up from what these people did, the advance party did. Another strategy for them was that they were able to also bring all their party apparatchiks, including the top guns, all of them there, and NPP also did the same. But you saw they were campaigning effectively for Jachikwese, that strategy, and it was a strategy of message. It was a strategy of hope. If you look at John Mahama, the things we were saying, he said, look, he's not going to jail. I mean, even though that was also another issue, he was drumming that, all right, because that was a very contentious issue. But look at it, he was saying that, yeah, he was not going to jail. He was just giving the message of what? Hope. Then you saw other party members also joining the fray. You have all their top guns going there. It's a big strategy. And then you also saw messages. What message did they send? They sent, if you look at the message were drawn from 3 or 4 areas. So one, message of the economy. And I've said it time and again, that the economy is the most important factor of consideration for voters. And they played it in the Assin constituency. And that, yes, look at the government that has mismanaged the economy. Look at your economic condition. It's not anything to write home about. It's unfortunate and all that. They drum it effectively.
Doc, permit me to, sorry, Doc, if you can hear me, Doc.
The messages also hinges on what? The infrastructure development. They were recounting that all the monumental...
Hello, Doc, can you hear me?
If you allow me to land on this, then
all right.
I think I'll be able to make my point. They were also, talking about the issue of what? Infrastructure development, that the monumental work that has been done in that constituency. Yes, I can hear you. The monumental work that has been done, that the people should look at it and give them what? The mandate. And even where Jachikwese, according to them, has been denied of his, common fund and all that, he's been able to do a little from his own resources and all that. These were some of the messages. And another one was the message that, yes, he was not going to jail. And that was a message of hope for those who put him into office for the first time. So that one. I also listened to Assin North's message on the social media that yes, when they bring money to you, take it because it's part of the state resources that they are abusing. Take your share and then vote against the NPP. You saw that even after the declaration of election, there were people who were jubilating and then chanting songs in this regard that we took your money, we spent it, we voted against you. So all these things played out effectively in Assin North. I must also say that NPP didn't go there folding their arms. They also worked. But if you look at the strategy of building infrastructure in the midnight, in the night, and all that, it was a message that was coming too late, and it was more of a deception that if you meant well for us, you won't bring development to us in the midnight and then or when a by-election is called. That one, people will put a propaganda spin on it and it will go against. And that is exactly that went against the NPP.
So my question to you was, Doc, that this same message about the economy was delivered in Kumewu by the NDC. What do you think made the difference in this particular election, just using that as a base point?
You see, we can look at it from various perspectives. If you look at the Kumewu, Kumewu was a stronghold of the NPP. And in stronghold, message doesn't really matter. People vote on one: party tradition, party ideology, party attachment. And there is also what we call tactical voting. Tactical voting is that I'll vote for my party. It doesn't matter the candidate. I'm going to vote for him or her. So people voted based on that. And then once it's a stronghold, it's a very difficult for an opposition party to penetrate. And that really worked the magic. But here, if you look at the constituency, it's a swing constituency. I'm sorry. And that each of the parties have equal strength. So it depends upon your ability to organize yourself well and your ability to have resources that you can deploy them effectively, and your ability to be able to marshal all your forces and work effectively. You remember the message of the NDC, the NPP, that, he will go to jail. But if you look at even from 1951 election, Kwame Nkrumah was in jail when he won the election. He won the election. So I was also talking about that. If you bank your hopes on some of these messages, it's going to be a problem for you, because all that you need is that even if the person is not present at the constituency on the time of even the campaign and election, he has a solid team like what Nkrumah had in 51. He had the Botio, he had the Kroboduse, you have the Bakons and the rest. They fought for Nkrumah, organized well for him. So if people will organize very effectively for the situation, it doesn't matter what you say. And because it's a swing constituency, any slight effort will also win him a favor. Remember that in the literature, you are made to know that when people put somebody into an office as an MP, all right, they want a full term of that person so as to be able to assess the candidate very well. What happened to him? The people will think that, yes, he has not completed his tenure. So, yes, let's give him the mandate again and see what he can be able to do so as next time we can renew his mandate or throw him away. So from the word go, that is why I made the declaration that the NDC person has that slight edge to win the election. And events of yesterday have proved me right.
Would you agree with those who say, based on what you just said, that this is probably not a vote of confidence in Dachikwesin per se, but it's just about people being sympathetic towards him? Like you said, he's not completed his term, and also what he's going through, what he had to lose or give up in order to become an MP and all that. There are those who suggest that, well, we can't say that the people really love him per se. They're just expressing some sympathy through their votes.
You see, sympathy is not supported in any literature in what voting behavior is not true. When people tell you this, please, discount them. Otherwise, when we are saying, what we are saying is that anytime there is election and even somebody loses a relative and all that, or we lose even that candidate, and then there is another person coming in, you are likely to vote for the person or not. Sympathy, then you are saying that as soon as you are campaigning and there is death, the person who is dead, his party will rather gain. That is not true. We saw the issue of Nana Kunedu Ajman Rawlings, unfortunately, during the last election, that he lost the husband, but he never won the election. So sympathy doesn't come in at all. People vote based on what we call the rational choice theory. According to Dan and Co., that people vote based on what they will derive from the benefit they will derive from that individual who is standing as a candidate. And people realize that this is Jachi Kwesen, who was living comfortably in Canada and renounces, nationality to want to contest here, and there was a problem. So they realized that there's somebody who has really dedicated himself to them, because otherwise he was living well. Why would he want to come and renounce his nationality only to come here and face problems and all that? So all these things were part of what the rational thinking, and it dovetails into the rational choice theory. Another thing that also went in their favor was the issue of tactical voting. And that, yes, we are voting for NDC, not necessarily Jachi Kwesen, but that we want our party to win so as to teach the government a lesson or send a message, strong message that, look, the government is losing the grounds, and that look at even a swing constituency where the real power of whichever party is strong will show we have won it. And it becomes what? A campaign tool as we move on into the 2024 election. So things that won him the election is his popularity and his desire to serve his people in spite of the difficulties he's going through. And then two, tactical voting ideas that also were able to push into the campaign analysis and then campaign program itself, and then issue of the fact that he's yet to complete his tenure. Let him go through the full hawk, and then we can assess him and the rest of them. So it's a mixture of factors that really came to play, and it won him the day.
Earlier, you commended the NDC for their strategy in winning this, and we'll be delving into other stories or making headlines on our websites. It's a holiday. We usually don't get the papers on holidays. But wrapping up on this Assin North by-election, there are those who have commended the NDC for their quick collation of results. You know, over the years, they've been condemned for not having the ability to do that compared to what the NPP is able to do. But this time around, we saw that they quickly did it. In fact, my colleague who's on the ground was asking them what this is indicative of looking forward to the 2024 elections. And the party's General Secretary, Fifi Kwete, said the party had learned from its mistakes and was going to do things better. Your quick thoughts on the general attitude of the NDC and its ability to show us what is likely to happen in 2024?
Yes, it is. You can use it as a general barometer for 2024 election, but there's something to learn from this. That the NDC learned bitterly from the last election, where they themselves said that their system broke down and the rest of them and all that. You can't continue to hang on to such an excuse in election. It's a serious business. You either taste little or taste north, right? So they needed to learn, and they have learned how to employ technology to be able to galvanize support and able to get their resources together effectively for an effective result. You saw that, I'm sorry, a few hours, a few minutes, let me put it, a few minutes after the election, they started jubilating. And then later, a few, maybe 1 hour or so, you saw Sami Gyamfi coming on to telling the public that they have, got all their figures. Most of them, they had the 70 pink sheets in their hands. They've been able to gather a lot of data and all that. It tells you that they have put in a technology that is working for them. And all political parties need that if you really want to be abreast with the changing circumstances of the time, so as to be able to map up a strategy using technology. And that is what will work for them. Going into 2024, I expect them to also employ that strategy and expand its frontiers to the 275 constituencies, and then make sure that it is foolproof and it is very robust, because this one is a one constituency, but we are talking about 275. It is a big one, and that they need to also factor into that so as to be able to track the process and then inject energy where the need arises. And one thing that in my submission I forgot that also won them the day was the issue of this type of the policing of the system, as they ferried all the party bigwigs into the place. They were able to police the system so effectively, and we realized that it prevented all manner of aberrations that normally happen in elections. It's not only them, the NPP as well. So policing is key. Going into 2024, the big task ahead of them is that how are they going to mobilize resources? They should be able to do that and mobilize human beings that are committed into doing their work and making sure that they police the system and that they will not jump into the street and be jubilating whilst the collation is happening in other places. Later, I heard Sami Jemfi, urging his party people that yes, stop jubilating, follow the process, and then let's shepherd the whole process to the time that the Electoral Commission will declare the process. That is the spirit of any election. That vigilance is the price of liberty. You should be vigilant about all the effort you have done by shepherding the process from constituency to the coalition center, to the regional center, to the national and all that. And once you get the basics right, I can say without fear of contradiction, you are home and dry.
Doc, we'll be delving more into the Assin North by-elections later on the show. Let's do other headlines on our portals. And on myjournalline.com, sub-national stakeholders sensitized on green GDP. Let's just look through the others quickly. We also have the climate crisis is biting and African editors cannot sit aloof. Okay, so the month of June has been dedicated to that. And I wasn't ready, but I told you to keep it. Sarkodie replies Yvonne Nelson on abortion claim. I don't know if you've been following that particular story, Doc, and your quick thoughts on that. The book, I Am Yvonne Nelson, and the claims that she was impregnated by the musician, driven to the abortion center, was left on her own. Well, we now have a reply from Sarkodie who says, I wasn't ready, but I told you to keep it. Have you been following this story, and what are your thoughts?
I'm sorry. I have not been following this story, so I can't handle that.
All
but
right,
I'll look
okay.
at the climate.
All right, okay.
Effort
at dealing with climate change. You want to take a swipe at that? Okay, Doc, please go ahead.
Yes. I am happy anytime people talk about climate, because climate change is a serious thing, and take it or leave it is going to affect the world big time. So I always expect that people will get themselves in readiness for that battle. So countries which are very pragmatic have all begun to take certain decisions that's really helping. So when I'm seeing things in my country which directed towards a meaningful program like this, I am happy. My statement is that I will encourage them to do more to protect the environment and make sure that we defend it at all times, and that we don't do anything such as galamsey, illegal mining, to undermine the very environment we are throwing resources in to protect and safeguard. Otherwise, then it becomes an exercise in futility. And that is what I am urging my government and my country against it. Let us all put our shoulders on the wheel and then support any effort at safeguarding the ecosystem. It is the only system we have. When we lose it, we lose our lives.
Right, on Graphic Online, the big one, James Jachikwasin wins Assin North by election with 57.56%. Hajia for real plans to be in Ghana in July and House to debate anti-gay bill. 5 ministers respond to questions. Domahini bemoans lack of development in Bunu East regions. And Alexander Jiku on Nottingham Forest radar. Man United target another player. There's more to that. And this one, police detained 5 individuals involved in disruptive acts during a Assin North by-election. And much later, Doc, we'll be delving into security and the general behavior of the voters at Assin North. But which of these would you like to take a bite at? We spoke about the anti-gay bill to be debated in Parliament soon. There's also Alexander Jiku on Nottingham Forest radar. That's some sports. We also have Hajia for real, planning to be in Ghana in July. She is currently being outside the country in the US facing charges of fraud. And so which of these would you like to take a swipe at? We've got just 5 minutes to wrap up.
Yes, I will look at the gay bill that is before Parliament now. A very controversial bill by all standards. But my advice is that we look at it carefully and all that. And because this is a bill that, if you look at it from whatever perspective, it has both positive and negative implications, right? But I always say that who is forcing us to pass a bill of this nature in the first place? Because then you are giving yourself up to the forces within the international system. Within the international system, they are the bullies and they are the underdogs in there. And that there are certain subjects, it's a no-go area for people. Once you go near it and you don't do the bidding of the powers that be, they are going to come at you. You also risk, you run the risk of, incurring the wrath of your constituents or your nationals, who by their culture are not also happy of this. So if you don't have any gun pointing to your head on such a matter, you don't go for it. You look at it until such a time that you have no choice. You have your back at the wall, and then you have to take a decision. If you look at all these things.
Sorry, Doc, but in this instance, there are those who say that we as a people must be proactive, those who believe that the country must create a law guiding the subject matter. Also because in recent times, there's been a lot of conversation about it. Our president was interviewed by international news agencies on what the country stands on gay rights are. Over time, the conversation has, developed. And so there are those who believe that, why don't we clarify our stance on it by coming out with a law of this kind? They don't need to wait to be confronted.
Who is forcing you to clarify? Yeah, who is forcing you to clarify any stance on that? Is it a matter of agency or not? You are taking up something that is a gray area within the international politics, and you are seeing the effect. The effect is that if you don't go for such a policy, all right, now that you have taken it, it has implication on donors and the attitude towards you. If you also pass it here, you satisfy the whims, the interests of your party people, your nationals, and the rest of them, and you suffer the consequence within the international system. So if you balance all these things and you realize that there is no agency, there is no, direct attack on your person or your government and all that, then you want to hasten slowly. But now that conversation has been taken to another level, that we are where we are. And what I will advise is that they look at it carefully, weighing all the options, and then take a decision that will stand the test of time. But whatever direction they go, the state must prepare itself that there are consequences that the state will bear, given the direction that they take. Look at the issue. If you look at the party leaders, John Mahama, Nana Akufo-Addo, and all that, they have been so careful about it because they have, they occupy, they've experienced it within the international system. And people who are around them advising them very well on the matter. So they are very careful. But the populists, also by their culture and all that, will not waste time at all, and then they want to take this decision. But you need to be extra careful so as not to incur the wrath of the powers that be within the global system. If you think about Ghana alone, or you think about the global system alone, without proper balancing, I'm afraid you will have your fingers bent. Where we are now, we must be ready that the direction we go, there are prices that we need. There's a price that we need to pay for whichever direction that we take. It is waiting for us.
Right, Doc. Thank you so much for your time on the news review. Doc will join me later when we discuss our big stories, and we'll start off on the Assin North by-election. But now let me bring you AM Sports, and we recap my colleague Muftau's interview with former skipper Stephen Appiah.
From the sandy pitches at the Indafa Park to the green fields and floodlights in Turin, in Istanbul, and to Vojvodina, where the career came to an end, we saw Stephen Appiah lead the Black Stars to the FIFA World Cup. That journey started on grassless pitch. Many say he's the man who redefined the Black Stars, what it meant to wear the Black Stars colors and represented the country, qualifying the country to the first ever FIFA World Cup in 2006, qualified the country to the 2010 FIFA World Cup, was part of the backroom staff for the 2014 World Cup. But one thing we all know is the light we see, but do we know how or where the switch was turned before the light came on for everyone to say it? We have no idea, and he's only the perfect person who can tell us how his life came to where it is now, that he's idolized by many people. Stephen Appiah, former captain of the Black Stars, is my guest today on Prime Take. Capito, how are you?
I'm fine. Yourself?
I'm doing good. I've not seen you in a long while.
Yeah, I can see that you are really doing good. You are looking fly.
Thank you. You see, there's one thing there. It's that there are many things people don't know about you.
Yeah.
But one of the things two people don't know about you is the fact that it is very difficult to get you, or very rare to get you to speak.
Yeah. Today I'm here. I'm in front of you.
So what are the other things that people don't know about you?
Oh, the other things. I think people know everything about me, but most of the things, my Choco days, people doesn't know. People saw me playing for Accra Suffolk, from Accra Suffolk to under 17, under 20, and moved to Europe. And my career, that's where people know, but there are certain deep details that people doesn't know.
What are they?
Some of them, I think that I have to keep it for myself, because definitely one day I will write my book and I will put them in. So it should be a surprise. But I have certain deep details. Even though when I mentioned I was born in Choco, grew up in Choco, and when you know that environs, you have to know that I've come from a long way. It wasn't easy, but yeah, I am at East Legon.
How would you describe that foundation?
How do I describe? I think I have to say that I've done well. This is a place that I grew up, and people that you roll with were doing all sorts of things, but I never allowed myself into those things, and I said, okay, what I want to do is to play football. So I channel all the energy into football, and then it works for me. But I think that I've done well. I quite remember the Choco days when, as a kid, you wake up in the morning 4:30, you have to run to Kanishin Carnation Market, inside Carnation Market, they have these stairs that you have to climb. From there, you have to run to Circle. They have a stairs there. From Circle, you have to go to the Mortuary Road to the beach. So, I mean, these are the sacrifices that I did, and it works for me. Growing up, I come to realize that whatever we do is the passion and the hard work that takes you to the top, and that's what I did.
Talk to me about the days of playing at Indafa Park.
Yeah. Okay, so I attended St. Martin's School, and those days it was very, very difficult for me. I mean, at times as a kid, you go to school without no food, you go to school without money. So one day I was on my way to school. I walked from Choco to White House. And I was on my way and I met a friend called, now he's a musician, YZ.
Oh, really?
Yeah, YZ, they were very, very rich. And I met YZ. YZ was like, Stephen, are you going to school? I said, yes, I'm going to school. He said, no. We shouldn't go to school today. I mean, follow me, let's go to Salvation. I've never been to Salvation Park. It was my first time. So he said, let's go to Salvation Hamming Park. When we get there, I will buy you rice and beans. As soon as beans and plantain. Yeah. As soon as I heard...
Is it your Kogari?
Yeah, Gobe.
Gobe.
As soon as I heard beans and plantain, I said, hey, I have to follow Daniel because myself, I don't have anything on me. So I followed him. We went to Salvation Army Park. We saw some kids playing football, and Daniel know that after schools, at times we played in the premises. So he said, Stephen, I know that you are a good player, so join the guys. I took off my school uniform. I put it in a plastic bag. We hid it under a bin. So you know that at that time, if you go home without your school uniform, you get lashed. So we hid it, and then I joined the guys, the kids, to play the game. When we were playing, there was this man standing like 25 meters from where we were playing. So when we finished, he said, oh, you're a good player. We have a coach team at Indafa. Can you join us? And I said, oh, okay, I would love to join you, but you have to come and talk to my mom first. So he came, and then my mom was like, no, he has to go to school. And that time, I wanted to play football. So one day I found my way to Indafa, because where I live and Indafa, Indafa Park is a bit far, and I was a kid then. So I found my way, and then I showed myself at the training grounds. I had a chance to play for under 12 and then under 14. When I was playing under 14, I was doing so well that when I play under 14 games, I wear under 17 jersey. So I had a chance to play under 14 and then under 17. At times I will come and play 5 minutes. I will come and play 10 minutes. That's where it all started.
Capito, how many siblings do you have?
We are 4. I have another brother and 2 sisters.
And who is the firstborn?
I'm the firstborn.
So you are like the father?
Of course I am.
Father figure.
I quite remember Choco days. I mean, you are staying in a small room, and where at times I have to make space for my siblings. So you have to go and sleep under the bed, and then under the bed you know that you find certain things there which are not cool. I mean, the cockroaches, the rats, and all that. So these things, it comes with it. I mean, being the firstborn, you have to do a lot of sacrifice. And today I'm happy that my siblings, they see me, and then they are very, very happy that he started, and then, I mean, now we are all seeing him happy.
I saw a video that you posted on social media when you went back to Choco. This was like some many years ago, and I could imagine the emotions.
Yeah.
Of going.
Games. They have never won any trophy. Yeah. He sought permission from the headmaster that I should come and coach this team for him.
The University of Ghana
team.
School?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's where I met Duncan and the Honorable Neil Antapoy. And one Mama who is the GASEM head or so. Yeah. I met all of them in the university. And that year we won the gold. They won gold for the first time. So I said, no, I think I will be able to coach. So I handled CCBB, my own team, a while. Then, out of the blue, I was in the house when late Tommy Thompson and some other big men of House of. That was the 84. I'm talking about the musical youth era.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, that time you had just
started. Yes. So apparently they had gone to Winneba to ask for a football-inclined coach who will be able to handle juveniles. Because Dr. Nyahu had then dissolved House of Folk, sacking about 23 key players.
He dissolved the team.
So we had to go in for these young ones. And I met my old man, DSP Coach Kobna, late DSP Coach Kobna. But when they came to my house, they brought about 5 cars. I remember very well, late Tommy Thompson, Nana Santisechi, their secretary came, and then they brought a bottle of snap, HP Nyamite.
Okay.
So they brought a bottle of snaps.
Former GFA chairman.
Yes. They brought a bottle of snaps and said, did I know the reason why they have come? I said, no. And Tommy was a chain smoker. So he sought permission to smoke. I said, no, you should feel free and smoke. So, okay, they have come to take me to House of Folk to coach. And this is, if you've come to somebody's house, you have to bring a bottle of snap. And some morning, there was money attached to it. So I was shivering. Hey, I was looking at house as a very big, big institution. And from a academy to go and stand there and coach this team, of course, it's not beyond my capabilities.
Yeah.
But if you look at the name House of Folk, from afar, I didn't want even to get closer. So that night I didn't sleep. I was pondering what would happen to me on the pitch the first day. So when I went, I met Dr. Nyahu and then my boss, DSP Coach Kobna. So I was introduced as the young man who was coming to help him. The little psychology I had, I saw that my boss wasn't happy. But when they bring a new coach, the board brings a new coach, it means they are coming to sack you. So after training, I went to him. I said, Dada, you know what? I'm not coming to take your job from you. I'm a young coach. Teach me everything in coaching. Teach me everything. Feel free with me. Take me as your son. And teach me. So one day I will mention your name. Somebody will lead me into this game. So he relaxed. He taught me every ingredient in football. Coach Kobna, it's Coach Kobna. He could even predict that, look, tomorrow you see the training we are doing. Tomorrow, that Sunday, we'll beat this team about 3 goals or 4. And it happened. He told me that the last training session of a team, when the team hits a crossbar during training, I mean the probable the team that's going to play, when they hit the crossbar, in a match they will hit the crossbar. If they miss chances, in a match they will miss the chances. So make sure that when we are training, all those balls must enter the net. And it happened. One time I wanted to test him, the bad boy that I was, I wanted to see things for myself. There was one, Ezekiel Alamu, he played for House of Folk, he's now in the US. And then some of these boys in house, So Alamu was an adroit dribbler. He didn't want to pass balls. And then one Eric Mensah. So in that game, at last training session, Alamu hit the crossbar. He hit the crossbar again before he scored. I didn't tell my coach anything. I just wanted to see something for myself. Sunday, Alamu hit crossbar 2 times before he scored. So I went to, old man, you saw what? I said, I catch it out. The man said, no, football, he was a phantom man. The man said, no, football. Hey, I fought with him. I said, I baby could be an fought with him. But man, with him. It is true. So sometimes I talk about our newborn coaches.
Yeah.
At times, you have to get closer to the old men to tell you certain things in football.
Yeah.
They get excited.
Not everything is scientific.
No. I always excuse me from aware that in Africa, the Bible doesn't play football. Bible doesn't play football. You know,
What they play the ball?
The other athletes play football. Other athletes play football. The prayers you see being conducted, prayers. Look, if heaven opens today, and God wants people who pray a lot to enter the kingdom of heaven, footballers will be the first. From the dressing room, they'll pray. They descend on the bus, they'll pray. They enter the dressing room, they'll dress up. When they're going to warm up, they'll pray. When they come back from the warm up, they'll pray. When they go and play, first half, they'll pray. Second half, they'll pray before they go back. After the game, they'll pray. You see, so it is nothing that you see even their coaches now telling, you know our coaches, they take on for the first time. I think we have to give glory to God. Yes, you have to give glory to God. But I'm telling you that you are just brainwashing. You are just camouflage. It's a camouflage. You know what has gone beyond. You know what the executive are going to do. They just push you there to go. That's why sometimes they tell you, look, if you coach, you can go. The players can play. It's because of this. You see, so there are many things that go into football. It's not a matter of standing on the touchline and shouting. Sometimes you shout at the player, he doesn't even listen to you. But for the respect he has for you, he'll come. Any player who comes to you as a coach and is drinking water, don't talk to him. He doesn't listen to what you are saying. He's thirsty, he wants to go back and play. You know? So at times there are certain places that you have to talk about.
We think there's juju in football?
Anything that has a name exists. Anything that has a name exists. You follow me? If there's juju in football, juju exists. So there is. There is. There's juju in football. Nobody should tell me that I'm telling lies. There's juju in football. You know?
During your coaching career, did you try juju before games?
Oh, I want to tell a story about when I was playing for Susubibi.
Please go ahead.
We lost to Azakes, I think, was it? No, before then. Azakes was one big team that was worrying teams. Those secondary teams, 11 wise, Azakes. So we were supposed to play Azakes. Then our manager said somebody was coming to play for us. That the man said we should go to the cemetery at midnight. We'll go and pray in the cemetery. Why do I go and pray cemetery midnight? I feared, how do you call it, what do you call it, spirits.
Yeah.
Especially people who are dead bodies to come and, okay. So I made sure that I was in the middle of the queue. I wouldn't be last, I wouldn't be first. So in case of something, I can balance. You know? So we went, and he didn't go even to those who were dead. I mean, the front,
like the graves?
The graves.
Yeah.
I mean, when you enter the first graves, no. We went deep inside. And then if you look at your back, it was very dark. Front was dark, back was dark, side was dark. And this man started chanting, saying certain things, tetragrammaton, some things, 6 and 7 books of Moses, and all of things. Then we came back. We knew we had won. We were well up 4-0. After all our presence in the cemetery, 4-0. But our managers believed that, something went wrong. That was why we lost. Another time, they said this time, they used blade to make some marks on our head and put some black powder into it so that we'll be able to see the ball well. They were giving a bunch of bananas to eat. You know, so when I left Susubibi and went to Winneba, I got to know that why did we lose? I asked myself, why did we lose the match? I was doing some research. I got to know that the way we stood out the whole night without rest, the legs that we were going to use to play were weak. Look at the time we stood in the dark, no rest.
Like for how long did you?
About 3 hours, praying. People were dozing. If you are dozing, they will come and hit your back that you should wake up. Otherwise, they will say that you cause the team to lose. You know, so if somebody tells you that there's no juju in football, yes, there's juju in football, but it depends on your psyche. If you believe in it.
But you did the juju and still lost 4-0. You were up to 4.
You do for what?
You didn't juju to go and win. You wanted to win, but
I didn't win. But the organizer said, I mean, the owner said you have to do it.
But if the juju was working, you didn't even need to
at times,
go and stand there.
At times you are lucky it will backside, it will come to your side.
So what clearly means that, in as much as there's this perception that juju actually works in football,
yes, it works.
But you really have to work too.
Yeah, yes, you have to make it work. Why do you have to make it work? It's from the trading, the perception. Because you have gone through, tell them it's not there. But you don't. There's a way you should do it. You know, there's a time when the player told me that, coach, we need to bath water before we are able to win. I went, brought water, put this lavender inside. Said, hey, come and bath. We won the match. Meanwhile, there was nothing. You know, just because they had the belief in the water that if I bring in the water in the bath, and we win.
No, so if I get you clear,
yeah,
is it how you think that influences whether juju works or not, or it is the juju that will help you win?
The juju doesn't help you to win. The juju is a psychological booster. From the coast, they started from the coast, which is why a player can tell me that, look, bring water for us to bath. From the coast level, they do that. Why do coast players put white handkerchiefs on their wrist? Why is it that some people will paint their face white? Why do you tell that today the color is not good, go and wear violet? Why do House of Folk people tell that the colors that they wear is what do you call it? It's a universal color. That you can't do anything against House of Folk because the colors are universal. It's a rainbow color. Every color is a rainbow. Why do they believe in it? Why is that sometimes? Do you know why they change this the guesses to that an away team will come, they will read that, oh, perhaps Susubibi wears green and yellow. So we should also go and find green and yellow to match their color. What we got in those days, the home team will have to change. So you force them to change their jersey. The jersey they have used in going to the juju, they will change it. Then you wear that jersey. So the light comes to you. You see? So if you are sitting outside, there are many things in football. Many things that go into football. People don't know.
How many years did you spend at House of Folk?
House of Folk? I can't remember. But, you know, I've been in House of Folk in and out 3 years. 3 times.
Okay.
In
3 times?
3 times in House of Folk. Nyahu Tamakulo's era. I left. There was a problem between me and Nyahu. So I had to leave. And then later, during Afani's time, later Afani's time, he was with the national team. And then they opted me to come. To come and help him. Yeah. Because he was in the national team. So that was when we won the league. Before he came back, I had won the league for House of Folk. Yeah. So we continued from there. Then I left. Then during the time they were playing in Africa, during the time of later Sam Dodu, and then my good friend Polo, we were then handling House of Folk. And I hear there was a rift between them. They never saw eye to eye. So then the head of state, the late head of state, Atames was the board chairman.
Okay.
So they had to run to me to come and help so that the two of them would leave the scene. So it was dividing the front of the team. So I went. You could remember when GS Kabil beat our team here?
Yeah.
Yes. I took them to, how do you call it? I took them for the match. You know? So that was the 3rd time I went to House of Folk. You know?
What happened between you and the Nyahu Tamaklo?
Well, Nyahu said I was a conduit pipe.
What does that mean?
You know the meaning? That was the word he used. There was, Alagi Haas was there in the US when Nyahu,
rest in peace.
Yeah, may he rest in peace. When Nyahu sacked the 23 players, apparently the Haas people didn't like it because it was a way of wiping away the foundation of the team.
Of the club.
Of the club. So when I was drafted in, working, then Alagi came and said he wanted to see the players, to honor them, So I didn't know the rift between Nyahu and the Alagi house. I never knew there was anything between them. So they called on me and then we went to Alagi's house. He gave us some food to eat. And then he gave even Nanabe some money to drop into Tema because he was coming back to training.
Oh, okay.
Then later, I had news. In fact, I was coming to the training ground when I saw Nyahu on a table like a politician addressing the House faithfuls. that the man he has gone to take bribe. We were going to play Hazakes in a friendly match that Sunday. So he was taking money from Hazakes. He's not a good man. So I didn't know, I thought he was addressing it. So when I got to the place, then my boss, a late DSP, Governor, said, coach, Abazina, Yahukan. I said, I give bribe. I said, school teacher, I've gone to take money from who? Boss, the match we're going, was it a competitive? It's a friendly match. How do I take money? So Yahoo was also, the supporters fund was divided. So my boss, being a policeman, said, coach, just get off. Leave these people go. Because you don't know when something happens, they will say that you were the cause. That match, we won 3-0 at the stadium. So I went off. Then Yahoo came to my house with a gun. Yes, that I remember we were using a small Peugeot car in the company of Tetoku. Asphalt, Tetoku. And then one of the richest, we call it richest, is the team manager. 3 of them came. I had them closed from school. After that, I wasn't with the team again. Yeah. So he wielded that gun, came out. So what had I gone to tell late Rollins and Anna Enning about the fact that I've left the team? So, me, these personalities, I've never even seen them before. I've not talked to them. So it's a good man to shoot me for taking him to the head of state and then Anna Enning, who was our supporters. So when he left, I went to Alagi Tijani. The late Alagi Tijani was then the board chairman, and reported the case to him. He said, look, I should go to the CID headquarters and report that case to them. So I went there and told them, I said, look, I should go back to Kaneshi. You know, that is likely. That Nyahu has been arrested. You know, Ghana police, if they want to work, they will work. Look at the time even the news broke out to them and the action they took. And when I got to the police station, Nyahu was there. And then with the guns, they went to search and took all the guns from his house and brought it to the table. And I said, coach, which one did he use in threatening you? So I pointed at the silver one. He said, look, Nyahu said, oh, but I've always been in his car with him. I said, no, I don't come into your car, please. You face it. So the man, I remember very well, the prosecutor was one Inspector Amponsa, or Sergeant Amponsa. He said, coach, go back to school. We'll deal with this case.
He secured a percentage of 42.15%. Candidate number 2 secured 0.29%. Candidate number 3 had 57.56%. By the power in me vested, now total turnout is 74%, 74.23%. Now please can the candidate come? By the power in universal.
election is a referendum. It's a referendum between the people of Ghana and NPP. And I'm excited because the people of Assin have really spoken what the people of Ghana have been saying all the time. And that is that this government, in the past 7 years, has failed the people of this country. Here we are, where inflation is about 42%. During our time, inflation was 15.5%. And they went on a spree of saying that we have failed as a government. We have failed as a government. Now, here we are, where our pensioners who have worked for so many years are now having to picket just to get the little money that is due them. Our factories have been shut down. Our currency has become a junk currency. You know, with all these things, you know, the people of Assin has spoken the language that the people of Ghana want to hear. And the results are very clear. Look, NDC had 58% and NPP 42%. Such a landslide is a message to the government that either they sit up and talk to the people of Ghana, they need to talk to us. Ghana belongs to all of us. The idea that only a few people can run this country has now been really made clear that they cannot. So I'm excited not for NDC, but I'm excited for the people of Ghana.
But this one was very swift. With just a few of the polling centers announced, we heard shouts of jubilation. How did you do it?
Yeah, because we campaign. I mean, we have been in this constituency for the past 1 month, 2 months, right? And we engaged the people. So we knew how the people were going to vote. We knew. So when we got about 20 polling stations, we knew we had won, right? So, I mean, the important thing is that the people have spoken.
What kind of technology did you adopt and strategy did you adopt? Because this is, someone would say, unusual of the NDC for you to collate election results very fast like that.
It's a fallacy. We always are able to collate our results. But this time I wanted to prove to the people of Ghana that within 1 hour, within 2 hours, we can get our result. And you saw it, within 2 hours, we've got our, it's taken the EC so many hours to get the result. But within 2 hours, it shows you that NDC, we are capable, and we are doing it. But unfortunately, the system was stuck against us. Now, we are going to 2024, and we know what to do now. We are not going to come public and say this is how we are going to do it. But you yourself, you saw that within 2 hours, you have been able to collate our result.
Fifikwete, and then pick a word from him. Thank you very much. Welcome to PM Express.
Thank you very much.
What as a political party, you fought so hard.
Yeah. Let's say, I mean, for us, it actually goes beyond the NDC as a party. It goes beyond the NDC. It's a victory not just for candidate J.C. Kwesen. It's a victory. It's a victory for truth. It's a victory for justice. And also it's a victory that signals that the people of Ghana are not prepared to sell their soul. That you cannot destroy a nation politically, morally, pervert the systems, the institutions, and come and think that you can buy the soul of the people by throwing what you call last-minute goodies at them, trying to deceive them and so on. So it's a number of great victories beyond just Assin North.
I'm going to engage you further, but let me pick a word from Honorable Georgia Chikwesen. Good evening. Welcome to PM Express.
I thought I just spoke to your counterparts.
No, this is Joy News. PM Express live on TV. Good evening.
Good evening.
You should be happy now by now. Happy man by now.
I've always been happy. Tonight is exceptional because I've seen our people have vindicated every court and myself, and they still believe in me, so that makes me happy.
What does this victory mean to you personally? The lessons to be shared to the whole world.
Well, I mean, principles and values I work with. And I don't quit easily, so long as I know the cause I'm leading is genuine and it benefits other people. You see, you haven't been in a situation where you have to sacrifice your own life interest for the benefit of others. Until you are there, you will not understand it. Somehow you get an inspiration and you become fearless because you are standing for the truth, you are standing for justice, you're standing for almost everything that benefits other people other than yourself. That is why we have people like the Kwame Nkrumahs and we have people like the Mandelas. All right? Otherwise, somebody has to do it. Somebody has to be in that position sometimes. So I'm very...
What do you tell the people of Assin North for what they have done, the victory they have given?
Well, the victory belongs to them. The victory belongs to Ghana. And the victory belongs to rule of law, justice.
Are you daunted by the fact that you'll be going to court very soon?
No. That's the least of my thought. I'm focused on how I can get Assin North developed. The court can take its own course. I mean, as I said earlier, I have not committed any wrong to worry about what is ahead of in legal terms. No.
All right. Thank you very much, George Achikwesin.
Thank you.
The one that has been declared as the winner of this by-election. Let me come back to Fifi Kwete. So does this election, the results that we are seeing now, does it have a bearing on the 2024 elections?
I would say it's a signal. It's a signal that the country is ready to do everything possible to stop a number of things that are going on. I mean, the destruction of the economy, the destruction of the moral fiber of the country, the perversion of our institutions, the weaponization of institutions to destroy truth and justice. I think a number of things are at stake, and the people of Ghana are signaling that enough is enough.
Did you sense sympathy vote, or it was just a referendum on the economy?
I see it's a number of things, so many things together. The people clearly are tired. The people clearly have seen that their economy is destroyed, their welfare is down. They can see the injustice that was happening. They can see the insult that was happening by last-minute attempt to buy their soul using what you call money and goods. So many things were together. So we see a signal, an awakening, and a message that is being sent to the rest of Ghana.
And what should we be expecting from the NDC as you've chalked this victory? What should we be expecting from you?
We are going to move into high gear. We are going to move into strategy. We are going to move to what you call effective planning towards 2024. And of course, coming up with ideas that we need to be able to revive this economy and restore Ghana again.
It appears that we were very swift in collating this particular result. Under 2 hours, you were able to put together the results and then the jubilation started. I mean, is it a sign of some new development that we should...
We have said it, that some of the mistakes made in the past will not be repeated. I personally have pledged to the country that we will clearly see a collation system that's different. That's the beginning of things that are happening.
Thank you so much for staying here on the AM show. Just gone by, you heard the returning officer declaring James Achikwesin as MP-elect for Assin North. And then we heard from officials of the party, including General Secretary James Achikwesin, and we heard from, Fifi Kwete, I beg your pardon. And then we heard from Mr. James Achikwesin himself. Much later, I will be bringing you an interaction you don't want to miss with Dr. Asante, who's a political scientist, and we've also got our man, Dr. Osai Kwapong, joining via Zoom. And the news review was brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and it's offering a free prostate screening and free female fertility screening. Here's where you can find their facilities in Accra, Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard, in Kumasi, Kronum, Appiah, behind Angel Educational Complex, and in Takrade, at Anaji Estate. In Tema, You can find them in Community 22 and at Hensia in Tichiman and Siama in Nzema. If you want further information or more information, please call 0244867068 or 0274234321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic diseases. And for AM Sports, you saw that interaction earlier with Stephen Appiah that will be airing on Friday. I beg your pardon, I said it was a recap. The actual full interview airs on Friday during prime take, so keep that locked in your diaries. Let's now talk about the big one, the Assin North by-elections. You know the drama that led to that particular by-election. It started from the NPP raising concerns about Mr. Jachi Kwesen and whether, or at the time he was contesting to be MP for the area, he had renounced his citizenship to Canada. And you know the drama that unfolded, the Supreme Court eventually asking the Clerk of Parliament to expunge his name from its records. Then the Electoral Commission obviously did declare the elections to be held, the by-elections to be held, and the two major parties began their campaigns. And then we saw, because there's a criminal aspect to the case, Mr. Jachi Kwesen in court trying to get some time to focus on that one. The court granted him some days off, permission not to appear in court, and then he went to Assin North, I think just about a week ago, and started his campaign earnestly. And yesterday, the voters in Assin North decided to give him another chance. What does that mean for the NDC? What does it signal? We also know that there were concerns about vote buying, allegations made especially by the National Democratic Congress. There were also issues of people who tried to disrupt the process, but generally it was a peaceful one. Let me now bring in my guests as we zero in on the issues as they unfolded in Assin North. Thank you so much for staying, Dr. Asante. He was with me during the news review and he's still staying. And Dr. Osai Kwapong, thank you also for joining us. So let me start with you, Dr. Kwapong, because we've heard Dr. Asasante's initial comments. What does this look like for you, considering the margins by which Mr. Jachi Kwesen won and the signal generally that this sends to both of the parties?
Yeah. Good morning. Thank you for having me. So I was on the show yesterday morning saying that it was hard to predict who was going to win, and that it was going to be, at least it appeared that it was going to be a very competitive race if you look at all the big quote-unquote guns from both of the parties that had showed up and converged upon Assin. The election results, the gap was even much wider than what was seen in 2020. And I think part of it is because I believe part of it is the framing of the issue by the NDC, right? That I think of all of the things that they said in their messaging to the people of Assin, one theme was central to the campaign, which was this was a matter of righting the wrongs that had been done to Mr. James Kwesen, that this was a matter of justice. And they kept repeating that and repeating that and repeating that. And so my initial observation is that the message of justice and righting the wrongs against the winner, Mr. Kwesen, won at the end of the day. But beyond that, I think with such an election victory, and you saw that in the comments from the NDC officials that you spoke to, like Mr. Fifi Kwete, that the momentum is on their side, and I know that they are going to run wild with that momentum as a signal of saying, look, in a very competitive constituency, this is the victory we've been able to pull off, and it is a sign that we are ready to go into battle 2024 and wrestle power from the NPP. I believe that for the ruling party, they are likely to respond and say all elections are local, and the fact that whatever happened in Assin is purely a matter of Assin and has no bearing on the upcoming national election in 2024. But I think I think that they would also admit that there are signs of vulnerability emerging from Assin North, and there are lessons that they can learn as a ruling party as they go into 2024 from what happened in Assin yesterday.
The NPP marshaled a lot. The president himself was there, making some pronouncements that people found problematic about what the future of Mr. Gyakye Quayson is in relation to the criminal case in court. There are those who said that that was a no-go area for the president and he shouldn't have made those comments at all. For you and from where you sit, considering that all these bigwigs were there, including the president himself, what is the precise lesson in here for the party? Considering also that this particular constituency is a swing constituency. Over the years, we've seen it. The NPP, I think, for parliamentary has had it about 4 times. If you add Mr. Quayson, this should be about the 3rd time for the NDC. So clearly, not so much dominance by one party or the other. But what should the NPP be learning from this experience, considering that the people themselves said, we took your money and we voted otherwise? What's the lesson in here for that party?
And the lesson here is that in very competitive districts, very competitive constituencies, voters would ultimately do what they believe is right or do what they really want to do, regardless of rhetoric, regardless of any inducement, regardless of the things we do to try to get them to vote for a particular party, that ultimately the decision rests with the voters. I found it very instructive watching a number of TikTok videos this morning where you see all these group of people singing the song of Charles Opoku Sikani Yedi, right? And it's this feeling of, look, yes, you came, you offered money, we took it, but we still decided that there's a particular candidate that we want. And so I'm hoping that going into 2024, particularly in the swing areas, in the very competitive areas, that our 2 parties would be minded that, look, at the end of the day, your messaging is very important, and that even if you want to engage in the business of inducements, nobody is going to stop you from engaging in that. But keep in mind that ultimately, the voters are going to decide. And I keep bringing our parties and their supporters back to one of the findings from the CDD Ghana pre-election survey back in 2020, which was, there was a question about, do parties offer inducements, etc., etc. They said yes. And then they listed a number of what should you do if a politician or a party gives you an inducement. And it was very instructive to see the percentage of respondents who said, I'll take it, but I'll still vote the way I want to vote. And I've been highlighting that particular sentiment because I don't think that message has really caught on yet with our parties, that you can offer all of the inducements that you want, but the effect of it has its limits because voters will still do exactly what it is that they want to do.
Interesting. I'll come back to you, Doctor, as we discuss more. But Dr. Asante, we've heard your earlier comments, impressions about what happened in Assin North. But just for those who are joining us just now on the show, quickly just give us a brief summary of your impressions about the by-election.
Yes, as I already said in the earlier account, and that intimidation, harassment, lies, deception, bribery, or inducement do not win anybody power. And that it's by dint of hard work that you win power. And it flows from the idea that Kwame Nkrumah had also thrown to us, that organization decides everything. If you look at what happened, 3 or 4 things came to light. The issue of resources and how it was managed, the issue of strategy, the issue of message. All right, look at resources. NDC, financial and material resources, they mobilize them effectively to be able to do the kind of work that they did. Look at all their top guns were ferried to that place. Look at the rank and file, their work, they are there in their numbers to give support for the party. If you look at material resources, they were able to, do all manner of things with resources. Look at the issue of strategy. A lot of strategies were employed by the NDC. They sent advance party to go and do the recce work, do the underground work. And then the whole party machinery followed up with another consistent plan that they were able to explain or execute effectively. And that was captured by Evise Friankra. If you look at the issue of propaganda was employed, and research has shown that in Ghanaians' election, propaganda play a lot of role in here. And I saw 2 of them. The bandwagon effect as a propaganda technique was used. That yes, everybody voted, if you like, majority of people voted for Jachukwu in the last election. Because of a problem, he came out of parliament. And now, if you think that that decision is the right one, why don't you join the right people? That's the bandwagon effect. It worked very well in this election. We also saw the issue of another propaganda technique of what? Testimonia, that the right thinking people within the party came and then endorsed Jachukwu, that he's the right man for the job. He's being, if you like, hounded. He's being persecuted. These are the words that they use, persecuted and the rest of them. And this really, agitated the minds of the people to want to safeguard the vote that they gave to their leader 2020. And of course, issue of what vigilance was also critical here. That yes, you can marshal all resources, you can put all manner of strategy together. But if there's no strategy, that places emphasis on vigilance, that you shepherd the process from beginning to the end, and then you are going to lose out. NDC did exactly that. So they voted massively. They were able to canvass support for their people to vote massively. They were able to, when they started jubilating, they were able to what? Tell them that to follow the process and shepherd it to its logical conclusion. And that was also at play. Issue of technology was not left at all as a technique, that this time around, their technology about how they collect their results and get all their statistics right, so as to be able to place themselves in a better position to follow the process to its logical conclusion, was very much advanced. And then you saw the issue of the big guns going to campaign for the NDC. John Mahama, in the likes of John Mahama, Esiedun Ketia, and all that. And then the framing, as Dr. Sankwapong has said, was also key. Because whilst we're expecting NPP to be able to drum home their messages and all that, they were talking about threats, that you go to jail, you will do this. But the real message were really missing. But these people frame a message of hope, a message that he was not going to jail, and that a message that resonated with the people. Look at the point of what messaging. Messaging will talk about issue of the economy. They drum home the issue of what the economy, that the economy is at its lowest ebb, and that look at how it's affecting you. And remember, research has shown that one of the factors that voters consider in every election is the number one is the economy, because a hungry man is an angry man, and they drum home that message perfectly. Issue of infrastructure came in, and you saw the government quickly building, roads overnight and all that. Yes, that was an effort coming at the wrong time. It sent a wrong signal that it was meant for deception, nothing more, nothing less. Because if you meant well for us, you wouldn't start road construction when we are getting to by-election. And more so when you are doing it at the night. Who is dying that we need a road to be fixed in the night to save the person at the night, to ferry him across a river to another point? You know, that all explained that there was a lot of what, deception in there. But the infrastructure argument came in here, where NDC joined in and said, yeah, the huge infrastructure that you see there, other constituencies, we build them. And that is why we are saying that give our mandate to continue from where we left off. And that message was really issue of what, they also frame message up around what the common fund, that yes, yes, not common fund is used for development of the area. If you have not seen that much, it's because the government had denied the education, the common fund that we use for development. But in spite of all that, he's using his meager resources to develop you. And that there's a need for you to support him to come and continue the good work he's doing. All in all, if I want to sum up all these things, I would say that the things that came at play was the protest vote. The people protested, and that, yeah, they believe that there are a number of injustices have been done to Mr. Kwesing, and they believe that they are the people who call the shot. So they decided to vote in a certain direction. Issue of tactical voting. Tactical voting is where you vote not necessarily because of the candidate, but for your party to be able to send a clear signal to the people that there is something wrong that they need to correct, and it's your party which has the political wherewithal to be able to execute that. We saw that. Issue of also popularity of Mr. Kwesing also came to play, because
we lost Doctor, but we will allow him to conclude his thoughts when we're able to establish a good connection with him. But we've been joined by Mr. Peter McMahon, who is a former chairman of the New Patriotic Party. Good morning to you, Mr. McMahon. I just seen that on Twitter, you had put up a tweet that a peaceful by-election at Assin North constituency is a must. Before we go into your thoughts about the general conduct of the elections, it's early days yet, and so I know that there hasn't been a proper meeting to assess what exactly led to the loss of your candidate in that constituency. But from where you sit as an individual, what are your initial thoughts about what could have led to this defeat? Mr. McMahon.
Yes, Bernice, I'm here.
Please, did you get my question?
Yes, I'm okay with the question. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
No, I'm okay with the question. What is a peaceful election? I mean, an election must be conducted or must happen in a peaceful atmosphere. I mean, obviously, you don't want to win an election in a violent atmosphere. But before I proceed, let me congratulate NDC and Justice Kwesing for their victory. And let me call on all the voters, the electorate, and the citizenry in Assin North for the peaceful manner in which they conducted themselves. There were just quite a few trickles of violence here and there. But on the whole, I think the security and the Electoral Commission all perform their duties responsibly. And as you quoted from the quick tweet, peace in an election is a must.
Do I still have Mr. McMahon on?
Yes, I'm on.
All right, great. I thought you had more to say there. But I mean, for you, like I mentioned earlier, I know the party is yet to sit down to conduct its own assessment of what may have gone wrong, leading to the defeat of your candidate. But as an individual, from where you sit, we've heard from our analysts who have pointed to problems with the messaging, problems with the president's statement on the future of James Dachikwesi in relation to his the criminal case in court. But for you, from where you sit, your initial assessment of what may have led to the loss of your candidate, what is your assessment pointing to?
Well, first, before you do any assessment, you must look at the profile of the constituency. Okay? Assin North is a rural constituency. We won in many of the major towns and lost in the hinterland. So we need to do an assessment of what went wrong there. Because we looked at the previous figures in the previous elections, and those were key areas that we lost. So we tried to send a different message to those areas. I mean, basically, they are farmers, they are occupation, cocoa farmers, rice farmers, and foodstuff farmers. So what must have affected their level of production, their level of occupation, that our message did not send across properly. We need to interrogate that, and we are going to do that. What has been the general infrastructure? And mind you, Assin North is a new district that was created very recently. Their capital, Breku, what kind of infrastructure has the government been able to put out there? High school, hospitals, roads, etc. All these are things that voters will look at and then will be emotionally satisfied before they cast their vote. And it will be our duty to also protect the votes that they cast for us. So we look at our strong areas, try to consolidate our gains and protect our votes, and then try and send a strong message that will touch the hearts of the voters in our opponents' strongholds so that we can win them or break it in those areas. That was the strategy.
Mr. McMahon, don't you find it rather insulting that the build-up to a by-election is what prompts the grading of roads in the area and the quick fixes to some infrastructure there? I say this because on the national scale, we have seen it, where the year in an election year or the months preceding an election see a lot of fast-paced development and commissioning here and there. And now, at the constituency level, we are replicating that. Haven't we gotten to the point where politicians like yourself must begin to place some respect on the voters?
I think that you should not take the voters for granted if you ask this question. You should never underestimate the intelligence of the voter. Let the voter decide, and that's what they have decided. Okay? But as a government, you owe it a duty to develop your country. Okay? And I think I started by saying that Assin North is a new district which was carved out recently. Okay? So as to whether it's an insult or not, leave that to the voters. But don't be insulting the voters as well, because they want development. And mind you, it does not take 1 month to construct roads, to construct schools. So if these projects have not been initiated earlier on, it would not have been possible for some of them to be inaugurated. Okay, so some of them have been on the drawing board for far even too long, as I may say. So you speed it up. In other jurisdictions, maybe there are laws that says that two timelines on when projects could be inaugurated, like in Senegal. Okay, but the government has a duty to bring development anytime, anywhere, when resources, and mind you, when resources are available. And don't take the voters for granted, please.
Right. What are your thoughts on President Akufo-Addo's statement on the future of James Gyakye? Your party chairman, Mr. Stephen Ntim, has come to his defense, but there are those who believe that the statement was prejudicial. What are your thoughts?
President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo did not say we are going to see this. He did not say any emphatic words like we're going to send Gyakye to prison. And me and you and the entire Ghanaian citizenry, we know that he has a matter, a criminal matter, pending in court. And if precedents are anything to go by, we know what happened to Boku Central MP, Adamu Sakandi. So, whereas other people, and let me emphasize, whereas other people from other political parties were saying nobody can jail Gyakye, what is your response to that? It is the court. So he was emphasizing it's the court. He didn't say he's going to jail. He doesn't have the power to jail Gyakye. So this is off-target. I mean, the matter is in court. So let's preserve it as such.
Statement that should have even come up, considering his status as the president. I get what you mean by his statement was not emphatic by saying that don't vote for somebody who could end up in jail. But should that have been a point or an arsenal to use against Mr. Gyakye?
Oh, so you realize that could be an arsenal, eh?
No, I am asking because he said this on a campaign platform, right? Trying to convince people to vote otherwise. And so
but some people had earlier on from other political parties gone ahead to say that nobody can incarcerate Gyakye. Eh? You heard that. And that the matter is pending before the law court. So why should people be commenting on it to begin with?
Interesting.
So the matter is pending before the law court. So let's leave it as that, please.
Right. And there's also another statement that was made by the president. I earlier heard it from the roads minister, and the president repeated same. And this was when the president addressed congregants at the Church of Pentecost in the build-up to the elections. And he suggested that the people of Assin North should vote for Charles Opoku, who is the NPP's candidate, because he'll be able to sit with him to have or to foster development, to suggest that if somebody is not a member of the ruling party, then probably development will be lacking in that area. What are your thoughts on that as well?
I think the government comes out every year with a budget program. The government has medium-term programs and long-term programs, which covers the entire country. The government is a government of the New Patriotic Party. Believe that. And the New Patriotic Party was voted into power based on our manifesto. That is the program that we are going to build and invest in this country. So, isn't the government running on the promises and the manifesto and the platform of the New Patriotic Party? If I may ask.
So if that is the case then, which ideally should be the case, where development is not limited to the affiliation of your MP to a certain government, why should that come up at all? It then suggests that is the reality, even though ideally we should have development according to the budget, according to what is stated in the nationalistic view. Doesn't the president's statements then suggest that that is the ideal situation? But the reality is, if you really want development, you should get somebody who is on my side.
Dennis.
Mr. McMahon, please go ahead with your response.
The government has a duty and has laid out a budget statement that outlines its expenditure and revenue every year. The government has a medium-term program. The government came to power through its manifesto. And it covers the entire country.
Mm-hmm.
That's a region where we did not win a seat, like OT region. We are developing OT region.
So why then should a president make that statement? He made that statement.
I can tell you, you are a media person, and to be on the campaign trail is different from what media person may think. Because you want to talk to the voter, you send him a message that will resonate with him to enable him vote for you. That is different from when you sit down and do an analysis in the media. So distinguish campaign voter contact from media engagement.
Right, Mr. McMahon, I appreciate your time here this morning. Thank you so much for joining me. Peter McMahon is a former national chairman of the New Patriotic Party, and he was sharing his thoughts with us on the Assin North by-election. And so do I have Dr. Asante back on the line? Right, Doc, we lost you there, and that prompted my interview with the NPP's Peter McMahon. I'll come back to you shortly because we've been joined by the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Mustapha Gbande. Mustapha Gbande, good morning to you. And before we go into the excitement around your votes, I just want a quick update on your youth organizer. Mr. McMahon just made reference to some pockets of violence we recorded, and your youth organizer's vehicle was affected. His windows were shattered and smashed, and I understand that other officials of the party were saved by a whisker. How are they doing, and what's the latest on that? We know the police arrested some people as well. Just give us the latest on that before we go into your win in the constituency.
Thank you very much, and good morning to you, and good morning to my lecturer on the other line. Typically, I think that yesterday's election was one that the NPP went into that election with violence. They didn't just attack our youth organizer. They also vandalized the vehicle of the National Communication Officer, Sami Jemfi, who plays a major role managing the MP-elect. From there, they also attacked his deputy.
Are you attributing the attack to the NPP? What is prompting that?
We will get there. We will get there because we have evidence. Gabi and Appiah Markin were in the consistency with military people. We have evidence. We've made a complaint to the police.
Military people were those who attacked your men?
No, I'm just saying, I'm just building a point. What went into the whole insecurity of the election? Because clearly our deployment strategy, the police made us understand that depending upon what would happen, if the situation does not escalate, the police have enough logistics to contain all issues of the election. They deployed over 800 men. They had moved the police headquarters to Assin North, and that there was no need for a joint operation. We never expected to see a flash of military officers in that constituency, even if there was going to be a joint operation. Political parties would have been informed that due to a particular situation or the other, the police were going to upgrade their deployment. Now, number two, the NPP and government brought in boys and armed them to the suit. And so they were led by Owusu Bemba. A section of them were led by the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the NPP. And these are conversations that I have personally confronted them. So I'm not speaking from what I have heard. The NDC went into Assin North knowing that we win and that our motive was not to be offensive. Our motive was simply to be vigilant and to let our issues out. And so if we escalate the security situation, it was going to affect our victory. And so we didn't respond. So for my uncle, Peter Masmele, to tout the election as peaceful, I think he is not being sincere with the situation on the ground.
No, he did admit that there were incidents of violence, but he said it was generally peaceful. But Mr. Gbande, you've still not answered my question about why you are alleging that these incidents, which involved your youth organizer and Mr. Sami Jemfi, were done by the NPP.
Look, I have done quite an investigation on this matter. And if you want, when you finish the interview with me, go and search vehicle H, Toyota number GT4085/23. Who owns that vehicle? Those young men were in the car. They were rented cars. Who rented the car? NPP executive. We made a complaint to the police.
Right.
We just didn't want to escalate the situation. So we have evidence. We have left Pablo at Assin North. I was with the general secretary of my party, my boss. We left them 5 minutes when the attack occurred. After about 10 minutes, Sami Jemfi was attacked. Before we all got to the police station, Basin Sali was attacked.
How did
I must say that
just help us,
unconcerned.
Mr. Gbande, sorry to interrupt, but just help us for those who may not have seen the videos or are not aware. What exactly happened? What was the nature of these attacks?
So, Pablo's car, they shot from behind and also physically attacked his windscreen and the right side of his glass, broke them all. So you could see the gunshot through the back. Likely enough, it didn't get any of the people sitting in the car. In the case of Sami Jemfi, it was a form of physical vandalization of his vehicle, broke the back of his glass. But in Charlie, same. They broke the back glass of his car. And those were the nature of attacks that occurred. And so you cannot call these pockets of violence. It was a violent election that the NPP sought to orchestrate in Assin North because they knew that they were not going to win. They knew that the people were going to reject the NPP and reject the president. And so the only option was to compromise security and go all out on attack. Well, we had told them that we were prepared also for the worst, except that we will not be the first to take the step. We have tolerated the NPP in this industry of violence, and they take notoriety in it. And so we have come to a point where the NDC would have to tell them, enough is enough. We are willing to stand on our ground, accept that which is lawful, accept that which is within the laws of election. From today going, we will not let the NPP unleash violence on any part of our party hierarchy.
Well, you have won the election. James Dachikwesin is MP-elect for Assin North. I'm sure you feel very excited that all your work paid off. We've heard from your General Secretary and other officials of the party on what worked for you. You were there quite early. You, Sami Jamefi, we are told, did a great work speaking to the constituents and getting them on the side of Mr. Kwesin. So what's next for you in terms of Mr. Kwesin's trial and your bid as a party to help him execute all that you promised?
For me, I have mixed feelings because I'm really troubled as I sit here. Troubled because if you have a president who gets into the public space, denigrates presidency to the level that he makes comments that are prejudicial, comments that are contemptuous, comments that for me are very preposterous and unprecedented. And we are at a period where I believe that President Akufo-Addo must begin to take responsibility that his government has failed. Two, that he has not developed a single life system to accept his party and his family. And for him to begin to be reconciliatory, he rather take the posturing that further degenerates, that further dampens and further destroys the already suspected, seemingly relationship between the judiciary and this current body of executive. To the extent that the president can pronounce a matter in court, he understands the verdict. So I'm sitting here and thinking that, okay, so if I have an issue with anybody within the NPP, I will lose when I go to court. So why go to the court?
Mr. Gbande, aren't you overstretching what the president said? Agreed, he shouldn't have made the statement on a campaign platform. He should have stayed clear of it. But it is a probability. We don't know what the case is likely going to end in. But there is a probability that if he is found guilty, he would go to jail. If he's not found guilty, he will still enjoy his freedom. Aren't you overstretching it? The president was not as emphatic as you're making him to be, was he?
If this comment came from the NPP General Secretary, Nana B, or any other commentator of the NPP, it makes a lot of sense because they are typical politicians. These, the least will be expected to be coming from the first gentleman of the land, the president of the Republic of our country, the president who himself is a lawyer. And so you are not speaking about a man who doesn't understand legal jurisprudence.
Mr. Gbande, is your issue that his statement was inaccurate, or you prefer that he would not have gone into that arena? I want to understand what your problem
I
exactly
believe
is.
that he has further widened the suspicion that the executive, his presidency, has what it takes to compromise the judiciary, and that should be a concern.
How?
Because the president makes prejudicial comments. The president makes scandalous comments on issues within the court.
Okay, maybe we are on different pages. Can you quote to me what he said and why you believe that that's a prejudice statement?
Look, the same comment that the president did.
What did he say?
I'm saying that you have read the statement. We've not even read the statement. We listened to the statement. And I'm saying that there are clear separation of powers between the executive and the judiciary. That a president should not be on a political platform discussing an issue before the court. To the extent that the president seems to know that the situation will go to jail. And that they don't want somebody
Dachikwesin could go to jail or will go to jail.
Well, that in itself is wrong because you cannot politicize matters in court. The president's comment scandalizes the court. That is what I'm talking about, because we live in a country where people are feeling insecure. People feel that our judiciary is compromised. The judges must be worried about the comments of the president. the judiciary as an organ of government must be worried about the comments of the president. And I'm saying that no president in the history of our country has ever scandalized the court like Nanado has done.
So
3 days
your
ago.
issue is that his statement in itself is not problematic, but he has delved into a murky arena because of the perception about the executive's influence over the judiciary. I just want to separate the issues here.
We can do that, but to add to what you think, because of his capacity in the country, because of the platform he found himself, we are saying that he shouldn't have made the comment. Does it mean the president does not have advisors? Does it mean the president just gets up and speaks without having to refer to his advisors? How many mistakes of such have the president made since he became a president of Ghana, and how did that affect innocent people? And that these are the trends that we are talking about. And we are saying that it is not out of place that the president made this comment, because that has been his posturing. The president is doing everything possible to compromise independent institutions of the state. The president is doing everything to compromise the police. The president is doing everything to compromise the military. The president is doing every single thing within his power to compromise the judiciary. And that people do not trust the judiciary, that is an arbiter and a guarantor of our fundamental human rights. And that if you live in a country where you are worried about the executive clearly acting in a way that seeks to undermine the independence of an institution like the judiciary, it should be a worry to all of us. Ghanaians should rise up against it. Ghanaians should speak about it. We should open up the issues, and we should have a full-scale conversation that our president cannot refuse the presidency to this level.
Mr. Gbande, so finally, you have secured a win for your candidate. What is the next move in terms of his work in Parliament while he juggles the case in court, and your party's commitment to helping him fulfill the promises that he's made to his people?
Well, for us in the NDC, a case has been made that Ghanaians are hungry. A case has clearly been established that this government does not discuss bread and butter issues. A case has been made that Ghanaians are more concerned about what they will eat tomorrow, to have life, to be able to put life and soul together, than rhetorics of projects. You have seen what the president did in Assin North. And so for us in the NDC, it puts more responsibility on us to work hard as an alternative government in waiting, that we need to bring out alternative policies that will seek to stabilize the situation that we have in our country, alternative campaign policies that will assure the Ghanaian that Ghana is a prosperous country. Leadership can fail, but Ghana will not fail. Our country, Ghana, will not die. Ghanaians will get a better place when the NDC comes to power. And that, for us, it gives us a task to sit together, more united, work on a table, and make sure that when we come to power 2024, we are able to give Ghanaians what we promise them. You will see what will manifest in the equations when. One is a statement of fact that the people have rejected injustice. Ghanaians are saying, look, we are tired. This president cannot continue to use his presidency to persecute innocent people, and we fall for it. A statement has also been made that we cannot allow politically expedient actions to influence the will of the people, and that will reflect into 2024. And so we in the NDC will make sure that we sit on the round table, think properly, and put forward alternative solutions that will put bread and butter issues. Because Ghanaians are tired, Ghanaians are hungry, people cannot pay hospital bills, people cannot travel. If you were paid 1,000 cedis in 2016 or 2020, today your 1,000 cedis is worthless. That for us is an issue of insecurity that the NDC must be seen to position itself to have alternative solutions for Ghanaians, and that is what we're going to be doing.
Morning, Mustapha Gbande is Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. Let's get back onto Zoom because I've still got Dr. Asante, Dr. Sai Kwapong, and we've just been joined by lawyer Bobby Banson. I'll just come to him first, and then we will take some comments from Dr. Asante and Dr. Kwapong. Lawyer Bobby Banson, so I don't know at what point you joined, but I had a conversation earlier with Peter McMenu on the statement of President Akufo-Addo about the probability of Mr. Gyakye going to court and whether or not it was prudent for it to even come up on the campaign platform. And I've also spoken to Mr. Gbande about that. You are a lawyer. I don't know if you want to take a bite at that. But I would also like for you to share with us what the coming days look like for James Gyakye, even as the criminal court proceedings continue.
Good morning, and thanks for having me, and happy Eid to all my Muslim friends. I didn't have the privilege of listening to Honorable McMenu, but I joined in when the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC was talking. You know, if I were the president, I wouldn't have made the statement he made on that platform. But, you know, like the politicians always say, when they climb the political podium, sometimes they don't know what comes over them. I would want to think that with hindsight, the president would not have said what he said the way he said because of the who he is. Let me put it that way, because we must remember he's not president for only NPP, he's president for the whole Ghana. And so if there's a Ghanaian, whether he's an NDC man, he's an NPP man who is facing criminal charges, and you make such prejudicial statement, for lack of a better word, then it carries a lot of weight than any person lower than that office would have said. But be that as it may, you see what the president said and the reactions to what the president said, for me, further demonstrates the level of hypocrisy that we have, and we may continue to have in our society, particularly towards the judiciary. Listening to the NDC side, strongly now saying that, oh, the judiciary have some dignity that must be protected, and the judiciary should not be scandalized. I shudder to think whether it is the same NDC side who in the past have said things that are very scandalous of the court, even call them names, only because they lost their case, or only because there's a decision that does not go in their favor. And I want to put this on record. There are certain actions or these court cases that the Attorney General, I'm just limiting the discussion to the current dispensation, that the President Attorney General has lost, not only in the Supreme Court, but also in the High Court. And the records are there to show. So that it is not as if the court always toes the line of the government acting through the Attorney General as it were. There are cases that the Attorney General has gone to court, even Supreme Court, gone on review, like the case involving the legalization of the narcotic growing of weed, for lack of a better word. The Attorney General lost it in the Supreme Court and then lost it even on review. And so it is not as if every case that the executive arm of government acting through the Attorney General takes to court, the court toes the line. That is not the case. I always say that I have lost cases in the court. It doesn't mean that you should scandalize the court and call them names. But we find ourselves in a situation where politicians from both sides, as soon as they lose their case, they may have misgivings, but without evidence, go to media and start saying things that will incite the public against the independence of the judiciary. And I've always maintained the judiciary is the only organ of the government that if we start to bastardize the way that we allow the politicians to do, then we are headed for doom. Because if there is any dispute between any arm of government or any individual, we expect to go to the judiciary. And so if today the president has said the comment that he made, and I wish that he didn't say that, and the NDC has found a voice to criticize him and say that judiciary must be protected, they must not be scandalized. I hope that if the NDC loses a case, they will not scandalize the judiciary that today they are preaching must be protected. Because you see, my point, and to the second leg of your question, is that the law is no respecter of persons. Whether you're a member of parliament, you are a candidate, if the Attorney General is of the opinion and has the evidence that you have committed a crime, irrespective of when the crime was committed, nothing bars the Attorney General from prosecuting the case. If you have evidence to show that what the Attorney General is presenting, or let me put it the other way, if the Attorney General is not able to present a case to prove beyond reasonable doubt the allegation that has been made against you, the court will free you. If you lose at first instance, you have a right of appeal to the Supreme Court. And so let us not make the argument that the fact that Mr. Kwesi is standing trial means that automatically he will be sentenced. And the other argument, which I found very, very interesting, is that, oh, now that he has been elected the member of parliament, it means the people of Assin North want to keep him as his MP, and so the Attorney General should drop all charges. If we follow that line of argument, then we will be in trouble, because it means that when there is an allegation of any criminal conduct against any person, all that the person has to do is to go and stand for an MP. And if he wins, because the people in his constituency voted for him, the charges must be dropped. Let us keep the judiciary out of politics. Whether you win or you lose, you don't always have to win. You don't always have to lose. You learn. We move on. Let posterity be the best judge. There are cases that the judiciary has decided today, 5 years, 10 years down the line, they have said we made a mistake. They are human beings. They are bound to make mistakes. But the moment you allow politicians to bastardize every decision of the judiciary, whether they are in their favor or not in their favor, then we create the very problem that the NDC Deputy General Secretary is crying about. I hope that he remembers all these things that he's saying, so that if the NDC loses a case, he doesn't come back to say, oh, they were influenced. That is why we lost it. He must remember the judiciary has some level of dignity. He's preaching that we must not scandalize the court. I hope he remembers this.
Interesting. So what do the coming days look like for James Gyakye Kwesi? Still criminal proceedings are happening. What are we likely to see?
I don't expect anything to change. Like I said, the law is no respecter of person. After all, we have the minority leader, the whole minority leader still standing criminal trial. If the prosecution has evidence beyond reasonable that he has committed the offense that is being alleged against him, let the law take its course. That is why we have the Constitution. It is superior to any person and any group of persons. And so if the Attorney General feels strongly that he has evidence, I'm sure the judge has ordered that they do the daily trial to bring early resolution to the matter. So if they follow through and there's no evidence against him, or he puts up a defense that sways the burden of proof on the Attorney General, which is not able to be displaced by the AG's office, I believe that we will all be here. The judgment will be reasoned. If the party who loses is not happy, you have a right of appeal. I do not expect that his appointment, his election as a member of parliament will change anything at all.
Just hold on for me, Bobby. Let me bring Dr. Asai Kwapon now. Doc, I would like to hear what you have to say, particularly about the president's statement on why the people of Assin North should have given Charles Opoku the nod. And we had Mr. McMenu's response to that. Now, the president said to the people, vote for somebody who can come to me, somebody who can have discussions with me about the development of this place. Mr. McMenu's response is that, well, there's a budget that has a nationalistic view of how development should look like. Then I said that should be the ideal. Now, my question to you is that, does the president's statement point to a certain reality of how we choose to develop our constituencies and our society instead of going through the approved route that he referred to through the budget, through decentralized processes?
You would expect that if the world were perfect, that it shouldn't matter, that once elections are over, there's a national budget, and in that national budget, we set priorities, we decide who gets what, when, how much, and then those development projects go, we undertake those development projects. But I think the reality is also that sometimes, depending on a particular member of parliament or a particular, even sometimes even within your own party, that some may have a much closer ear, let's say, of the president than others. And all of those things can come with an advantage of getting a response to certain needs faster than maybe another person could get. It doesn't necessarily make it right, but sometimes that's the reality that you have to deal with. And that's why, in the process of governance, there are people who have to lobby, there are intermediaries who have to negotiate on behalf of groups, on behalf of areas, on behalf of people. But I think Mr. McMahon is right in the sense that the national budget is the way we approach development projects. And hopefully we are able, as time goes on, hopefully we are able to live up to that way of properly doing things. And then whatever is allocated to an MP via, let's say, the common fund, that it is done in a way that is, that is fair, and that one MP or one area, because they are aligned or not to the ruling party, is not given a special advantage or is not disadvantaged as a result of that.
And the way the president puts it, portray that.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, the way the president portrayed it made it sound like if you are an MP aligned with the ruling party, then you might, quote unquote, be able to get development either, you might be able to get development more than when your certain MP is not aligned to the ruling government. I don't think that's how it really works, because I've also seen opposition MPs who've been able to do some really good work in their constituencies as well. I think sometimes in the heat of competitive politics, that politicians end up, making statements or saying things that do not always align with the reality of how things actually work, or at least may not necessarily be exactly how it works.
We saw in Kumewu, we've seen at Assin North how government moved in aggressively to construct roads, to initiate certain projects, to complete certain projects, make attempts at fixing traffic lights and street lights and all that. And there again, there's this idea of disrespect where you ask yourself, does it need to take a by-election to get that? Did you have the money for that? Why didn't you give it to us? It's problematic, isn't it?
It is very problematic. And I think for me, the onus is therefore on voters to signal to politicians that we won't stand for these last-minute interventions anymore. Because again, as and even if you look at the roads issue, for example, I think the Minister for Roads, when there were a couple of things happening in Assin North and was asked about it, said, look, this has nothing to do with the by-election, and this would, these projects have already been earmarked and they would continue post this by-election. But there's something about elections that offers a different set of incentives to politicians. They respond well to an election or the prospect of either winning or losing. And therefore, the impetus to act, it's sometimes, not even sometimes, is always much higher in an election year than in a non-election year. This is where, for me, voters come in. That if voters are able to establish a pattern of behavior that says, if you come in at the last minute, we would remember the years of abandonment, and your last minute gimmicks or last minute efforts is not what we are going to reward. Hopefully we would get to a time when politicians would realize that the efforts at development should be engaged, should be continuous, and not one-time things or things that they do because there's a prospect of an election and the possibility to win or lose. And I think it is up to voters to over and over again demonstrate that to politicians, because politicians are politicians. They will always do what they have to do to win an election. It is up to us voters to decide what we let politicians get away with or not.
Right, and let me just take your thoughts, Dr. Asasante, on the issue of violence. We've just heard from the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC on how Sami Jamefi and the party's youth organizer and another person were affected. There were shots fired in certain instances, vehicles vandalized. Thankfully, there were no incidents of death or casualties, as we'll put it. But this is not something we'd like to hear, especially at this stage in our democracy and all the effort we've put at ensuring that elections are violent-free. Talk about Ayawa, so West Wogan, for example, setting up a committee, you know, and all that. What are your thoughts about those attacks?
Yes, I think before I come there, I was about to end my summary.
Yes, you're right. You're right. Before we lost you. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. If you look at the issue of popularity, it came in. There's no doubt that from 2020 up to date, Judge Kwesing is still popular amongst his people. And we saw also something that also was brought to the fore, the issue that the electorate wanted to know, and that he has really served his tenure, and so that they can really gauge his conduct or otherwise. That came in. We saw another thing of the Kumawood, group also coming to lend their support, telling you that yes, it's not only the people of Assin, but there are others who believe in the cause of those who think along the lines of NDC, and that also increased the popularity or the support for Judge Kwesing. Issue of framing was an important one, which we have talked about. The way they frame messages, and that made NPP reactionary. All right, instead of concentrating on their own messages, they were reacting to the messages of the NDC. And when you do that, you lose focus, you lose trust, because you are not able to, come out with your own policies and programs or messages, so to speak, but you are reacting to issues. It doesn't allow you to settle down properly. Then the last aspect of it was that the issue of rational choice of voters came to play, that they knew or they know what is right for them. So they decided based on the fact that, yes, this is a candidate that we want. It doesn't matter the inducement and all the things that you are talking about. We want him and he will serve our interest. The issue of constituency-specific issues, and I'm happy Mr. McMahon touched on that, they were, it caught the NPP pants down, in the sense that they were not able to look at the constituency-specific issues that border on the place that the election took place. You cannot look at by-election from a national perspective. No, there are constituencies and there are certain pockets of the constituency have special needs that you need to attend to. Once you turn a blind eye on this, you are going to have your fingers bent. But now come to the issue of violence. Violence is something that is one of the enemies of the open society and by extension, democracy. We don't want violence in any form to take place when we are looking at a democratic election. It is something that we detest and we condemn at all times. What happened to the NDC, national organizer was very unfortunate. That yes, what is the point of destroying somebody's vehicle in the name?
We lost Dr. Asasante again. Well, we're quickly wrapping up this conversation. So let me come to you, Lawyer Bobby Banson. There's a pending case, you've just spoken about that. But moving on, your quick thoughts on what the two major political parties should pick based on events that unfolded at Assin North. Lawyer Banson? All right. I think we lost lawyer Bobby Banson as well. Apologies for that. So it means I'm left with you, Dr. Osai Kwapong. So I end the conversation with you. There's a case pending. Lawyer Bobby Banson believes that Mr. Jachikwesion's re-election, as I should put it, doesn't matter to what is going to happen in court. Considering the president's statements, reaction to that, moving on, what will your desire be in terms of what we must be saying as politicians in regards to the case that is still pending in court and how Mr. Kwesi must approach it?
I think that, can you hear me?
All right, okay, we got you back, so please, you can go ahead and then Dr. Osai Kwapong will wrap it up with that for us.
The president's statement and also the response from Mr. John Mahama were just unfortunate. In a democracy, and we are looking at a rule of law. It's anchored on rule of law. That there are two components of rule of law: equality before the law and due process. That there is nobody who's above the law, and there is equal subjection of all citizens to the laws of the land. So whenever there is an issue before the court, you don't touch on it. You allow the court to finish its process, then you have the right to comment on it. And even there, you need to be measured and tempered. I think the two leaders did not help us well at all. We are talking about the president and the reaction from the former president too. All these things are aberrations when we are talking about meaningful democracy. We don't need that, because once you do that, you set the stage for people to frown on the laws with impunity, and that doesn't bode well for us at all. Going forward, I believe that yes, now the real test is here. That yes, Mr. Kwesi is going to Parliament and he's still going to court. The court will work separately from the legislature, and Mr. Kwesi will also have opportunity to go to court. Whatever will be the determination of the court will come, and then we'll follow from that. But from now, I believe that what Mr. Bobby Banson said is that nothing is going to change. That yes, he will go to Parliament, and then he will still go to court. At the end of the day, we'll see what happens.
Right, thank you for your time. Dr. Kwapong, let me end with you. Your thoughts on the violence and moving forward, what is your expectations of the proceedings in court are?
Yes, we have chosen democracy. I keep saying that we've made our peace with democracy. There are things that every so often may prove to be a challenge or may want to chip at that quote-unquote peace we've made with democracy. So some of these incidents are always rather unfortunate. I'm also pleased that it wasn't large scale. You want to really commend the police and the security forces for keeping the peace, and hopefully we would be able to emulate this behavior come 2024. Just go vote. I know we all get excited during elections. Just go, stand in peacefully, cast your vote, go home. Once a winner is declared, come out and jubilate. So hopefully, again, the security forces would do an excellent job like they did in Assin overall to make sure that in 2024 we would have a peaceful election, because this is the way we have chosen to go. Moving forward, Mr. James Kwesi has been duly elected, and so I believe he would be sworn in and he would carry out his duties as MP, whilst at the same time attending to court to put up a defense against his case, and we let the judicial process play out. But real quick, because Mr. Banson points to or raises a very important issue about how we treat the judiciary. And if I may go back to things that I've pointed out from the Afrobarometer, you would notice that the judiciary is not the only institution in that situation of this declining trust. Our institutions that make democracy work are living in an era of really growing mistrust on the part of citizens. And what I find even more disturbing is that when you probe the data further by party affiliation, we tend to place a little more trust in institutions when the party that we say we are affiliated with is in power. And that trust goes down when our preferred party is in opposition. And I find that very worrying. And what I've been arguing is that it is still, the burden is on our institutions, whether it is their actions or inactions that is contributing to this declining trust, that it is up to them to find ways to sort of rebuild that lost trust and confidence in them. Yes, I know that our politics is also a contributing factor to that. We pick and choose when we like an institution and when we don't like an institution. If it goes our way, great. If it doesn't, then the institution is a bad institution. But beyond that, I also think that our institutions must engage in some amount of self-reflection and ask themselves, why is it that increasingly citizens are losing trust in all of these key institutions? And what can we do to regain that lost confidence and trust in us?
Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Osai Kwapong is a fellow with the CDD Ghana. We appreciate it. So that's our conversation on the Assin North by-election. Earlier, you had lawyer Bobby Banson, we had Peter Mahmenu, Mustapha Gbande, and Dr. Asa Asante. It's now time to take you to our next big story, and this is a conversation my colleague Samuel Koto-Brace had with the Deputy Trades Minister, Dr. Stephen Amoah. They discussed a host of issues, including election 2024 and the prediction by Fish that the NDC is likely to win. Dr. Stephen Amoah has some interesting reactions to that. Watch this.
Fish is predicting that the NDC is better placed to win the 2024 general elections because of the way the economy is. What's government's, or how will government react to this?
Thank you very much. I think if I say how government will react, it will be very difficult. But I think I'm a key stakeholder of this government. So from my view and understanding of the finance and the economy and what is happening globally, then of course I can speak to it. I think it will be very difficult for somebody to actually hold Fitch and say that what you are saying is entirely out of order, I think, or out of place. However, I think it is also not a done deal issue for the opposition party. In the first place, globally, I'm not comparing country to country, but even the giant economies, if I'm telling you that interest rate or base rate in UK post-COVID has been increased about 1,800%. From 0.25 is now 4.75. Prices of goods and services, 46 years now, they've never seen inflationary rate the way they are seeing it. So all over the world, we all know any incumbent will not be in the good books of its electorate of people. It's a fact. I mean, the goodwill of every incumbent, in my opinion, is dwindling. Not specifically because that government is doing A or B, but the global crisis as a result of the COVID, as a result of the Russian-Ukrainian war, it's really affecting us. It had impact on our fiscal space. I mean, when in the history of this country, were we asked to stay home, but will be paid? Let's be honest with ourselves. We have revenue shortfalls of about 12 billion. So, truly speaking, domestically generated revenue has become a big issue to us. And it has affected this country. Let's be honest. And definitely, people will not be happy with the hardship we are going through. It's a fact. But then, a lot of other people are also realizing that it is a global issue. So let's see what can happen if we can provide some sort of mitigation when it comes to the hardship that these global challenges are bringing or confronting us with. Of course, we are import-driven economy. When the global supply chain gets disturbed, it will affect us. Of course, we have internal issues too. Specific issues as a country. Not today, not yesterday, not only one regime. So once we import almost everything, and where we import our things from, they're having challenges, it will affect us. So I think based on the hardship that we are going through as a country, as a result of the global challenges, and because of the government will have to take hard decisions, such as probably tax increment, or even the interest rate that is going up, see the policy rate, and other factors, which are probably not, not favorable not really getting on well with the people, of course, anybody will have the observation that the election is going to be difficult for the sitting government. But I can assure you, we are working around the clock to make sure that we mitigate the impact of the hardship. And by the time we get to first quarter next year, probably, God willing, because of the liquidity that is coming back, things might have changed, and Ghanaians would really understand us. But it is true that things are hard in Ghana and all over the world. And it is true, when things are hard, people will not be happy with you. It is a fact. But we are working around the clock. Things are gradually reversing, just that it's not going very fast. I mean, we used to have single-digit inflationary rate. We're growing 7%. Interest rate had been reduced from about almost 40% to about 20%. And then suddenly they all start going back again. Double-digit inflationary rate, double-digit growth, double-digit growth reduced, not double-digit. And then inflation went as high as, I think, over 40%. I mean, TB rate started going, a policy rate that came to about 12 from about 25.5 went to 30%. So these are the parameters influencing the decisions of high bodies such as, or global bodies such as Fitch. But I can assure you that we are working around the clock, and I believe in my government that we can do something. If we are not able to do something, then of course, but it has to be treated in the context of the global crisis. That one, I want honest people to say that.
But how many people in Ghana, if you're dealing with really the political space in this country, would do this analysis in the global space to really understand that, well, it's not only the doing of this government?
In fact, your question is perfect. Perfect. That is why we have a great challenge as a government. So now it comes to how the government can redesign, redefine, can introduce new paradigm shift in its communication with or to the people. Because this is the time that the government has to really sit down, redefine a new communication tactics, not strategy. Something now, tactics within the shortest possible time, so that our communication will have the needed cascading effect. Because our social stratification is actually comprising different levels in terms of people, the way they think, as you are saying, that they don't care if your child is going through hardship. She doesn't care. The child doesn't care whether the father has money or the father has lost the job. But you should be able to engage Ghanaians at all levels, at different levels, and explain things. Let them be part, pull them along what is happening for them to. How many Ghanaians even appreciate the fact that within 3 months, a giant economy such as UK, nurses, teachers, doctors, aviation, railway station, all of them have gone on strike. How many Ghanaians know? How do they even understand its impact on us? So what you are saying is perfect, but it is now on the government. The onus is on the government and its machinery to properly sit down, design proper communication tactics or strategies, whatever, engage Ghanaians for them to understand. Other than that, we are in trouble. That's the fact. And I think that is why Fitch is saying that. And it beholds, it's now our responsibility to actually confront these challenges and find solutions in terms of mitigating the hardship, in terms of communicating to Ghanaians, in terms of making sure that Ghanaians really understand why and where they are being taken to. Because sometimes there can be hardship. But if the key stakeholders realize that, the program the government has, the framework, there's a future, a better future. There is going to be light at the end of the tunnel. Even though I'm suffering today, I'm sure they might have really agreed and understand the fact that the same government was putting up splendid performance. All the parameters were doing well. But COVID and this thing came in, yes. But what are you doing to take us out? Where are we heading towards? How long will it take us? How do we understand your plight as a government? If we are not able to do these things, then of course, what Fitch is saying, it's something that probably may be materialized. But I think we are on course to pull Ghanaians alongside. Yeah.
In addition to the economic challenges, majority of the people also feel that government is not doing enough when it comes to tackling corruption. In a recent Afrobarometer survey, about 80.5% of the people said the Akufo-Addo government is not doing enough in tackling corruption, and that's also going to play out in this election. How then will government tackle this and fixing the economy so that 2024 might not be as Fitch is predicting?
I think issues about corruption, in my opinion, I can never say there's no corruption in Ghana. But issues about corruption, the problem I have is that it's all about perception. That's my problem. Because even in court, they say that not guilty until proven guilty. Almost everything about corruption in Ghana, whether it's true or otherwise, has been perception.
But you rode on that to you rode on that to come to power.
I'm surprised where you are taking me to. I don't know what you are talking about road, whether somebody rode on that another person, but it's all been perception. It could be true, it could be false, but then, Ben, let us also ask ourselves, if you are operating a democracy, if you are actually operationalizing a democracy, it is very difficult fighting corruption. It's not easy. Let's be honest with ourselves. Just because somebody says you stolen money, I should kill you. No. We are not in a military rule or regime. You'll be taken to court. We have 3 different arms of government. We have judiciary, don't we? We have the executive. Even whether it's Nanado or Mahama or whoever, you take somebody to court. The judiciary, they have their exclusive right and their freedom to operate. So what happens between the prosecutor, what happens between the judge and the whatever, the one that has been alleged guilty or whatever, what happens? So the processes are said that all stakeholders must play their roles. Rather than that, you can be even respectfully, you can be, how do I put it, Tony Blair or something, leading Ghana. You cannot fight corruption the way people think cheaply you can, because it goes to court. What happens there? If a judge is not good and he keeps on, I'm just making a hypothetical statement, I'm not saying the judges are not good, and he keeps on postponing the issue, what can Anadu do? What can Muhammad do? If somebody is supposed to give witness and the person doesn't give the right witness, what happens? If the prosecutor is not doing his work, you live in a country that somebody can come and say that, oh, a particular file is even missing. So let's be honest and confront this issue. I also live in a country, people publish falsehood about other people. You know that. Even things they've not seen, things that are not true, they do.
So how do you think we can deal with corruption then?
Corruption, I'm not saying, oh, fine, institutions work. We have the Yoko, we have this, is a special prosecutor or prosecution thing. We have attorney general, all of them, even you, the media. You should do proper and the correct reportage so that issues can properly be supported. And then the security agencies, they do the prosecution. So all the relevant actors that are important in dealing with corruption should have the right attitude and mindset and approach. Other than that, you can even bring American president or prime minister from UK, it will not change. The institutions, you think even another didn't want to fight corruption. Honestly speaking, would he have made Martin Amidu lead special prosecutor, whatever thing? If he didn't, he was just trying to play games with Ghanaians. If the political role was not there, you go and take a leading member of the opposition to lead it. So sometimes it's not very easy. I'm not saying we've been very successful in fighting corruption, but let's also not sit down and trivialize the cumbersome nature, the Herculean nature or task in fighting corruption in a democratic country such as Ghana, where other actors, positions, and actions and inactions can also affect the process of dealing with corruption. Being the media, being the judiciary, being the security, being we the politicians ourselves, being even witnesses. This is what I'm talking about. So once all of us honestly change our position and be honest and play our role efficiently, effectively well as a government, or as politicians, as media, as security, and as judiciary, trust me, we can fight corruption. If not, boss, you will keep on, will be recycling this thing almost every decade and will not change anything. We all have to change our attitude and our mindset. That's what I can say.
The IMF is also even worried about the free senior high school. And it's proposing that if we could modify it to rein in more support for the program. What would be your response to this suggestion that we may have to take a look at the free senior high school?
I think it doesn't have to even come from the IMF alone. Every policy all over the world, during its time of execution or implementation, needs monitoring and evaluation. It needs review, because things change. You review to adjust either upwards or downwards, depending on the parameter you are dealing with and what is prevailing. So I think in my opinion, after a few years of successful enrollment or implementation, of course it has hardship, it has challenges of the free SHS. I think we'll still have to do review and see where we can change the direction of some of the parameters. There's nothing wrong with that. But I disagree with people who think the SHS hasn't helped. Performance is a function of 1, ability, 2, opportunity, 3, motivation. Ability comes as a result of education. You cannot build any economic, you cannot expect any economic growth with that sustainability that we all want without education. It's extremely critical. It's a critical element of building any strong economy all over the world. So I think a situation where other people are not getting opportunity to be in school, and that will give an advantage to criminals or increase insecurity and other things, and that will be just liability, not asset to the country, will be dysfunctional to the performance of our republic. Education is key, but I agree with all the other stakeholders who are saying that there is the need to constantly or periodically review and change our positions if it is necessary, if that is going to enhance efficiency or effectiveness. Probably, even the first 2-3 years, yes, it was so much needed. Maybe the next year or additional years, things have changed, and that will have to also change, or even move, or do better or worse, or extend it to even university level, tertiary. It doesn't matter. But I think the call to review and see how best we can sustain it and grow, in my opinion, I think there's nothing wrong with that, and I'll support such calls.
So if we are to review, what do you think, or what should we review? What should we change about the policy?
Every performance, you see, every policy has its performance parameters for review. So I haven't done that detailed work. So if I speak and I'm too emphatic, I may, because I'm the asymmetric information, where stakeholders might not have been previewed to all pieces of relevant information for me to make that, authoritative statement. But what I can say is that we have to also look into the expenditures that go into it. We can check. Not that we should reduce or increase or whatever, but we need to review that and see. We need to also check its efficiency and effectiveness in terms of the children that pass through. I know their exams are not bad as compared to even where we're not doing free SHS. And most of the challenges confronting free SHS are the same challenges that even when we were in secondary school 20 years ago and over. Congestion, food issues, yes, check all those things. We're there. Even, inadequate number of tables and chairs and logistics.
Should we make some parents pay?
I can't say that. I can't say yes or no. If we can really put, good policies in place, and the parents are saying they are ready to. But I think the president's vision is said that there wouldn't be any system. You see, this thing people call, not that I don't support, but the way we are as a people. See the problems we are having with the school enrollment. Sometimes it is the actors who they make even changing some of these things very difficult. So at time may come that even those who are supposed to pay and not to pay will be difficult to determine. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. If what you are saying, I agree, is one of the best suggestions a lot of stakeholders have raised. The fact of the matter is that we should also look at the difficulty in making that inefficient. You know the kind of people we have in our country. I'm not saying everybody, but the way people take undue advantage and making it said that even those who merit such opportunities will not get. And I'm sure that is why the president looked at that and said, okay, let's make it in general. If you are in the position to help a school, what prevents you from going to help the school? You can. If you think you are rich and your child is there and the government is taking it, you could have paid the fees, you can mobilize something and help the school. But then it's also not wrong if we can also have a system that can clearly sieve the elements and make sure that these elements in terms of school children, they are really in need and that we are, there's nothing wrong with that. But whether we will have what it takes to provide that platform smoothly, efficiently, and effectively to get the actual needy students. You know the way our system is. Sometimes even the rich people, they will talk. But the same rich people go and pay money, some of them, and get their case through, while the poor people are there. And the president, realizing all these risk factors, thought that, okay, then let's do for all Ghanaians and see what will happen. With time, we can still review and change. Why not?
Hello there. Thank you so much for staying on the AM show with me. Bernice Abubedu-Lansah just gone by. You saw that interaction my colleague had with the Deputy Trades Minister. It's now time for us to discuss family businesses. Just look around you. I'm sure you can point to one or two. All over Africa, we see them, even the world over. And in the world, the global sense, there are family businesses that have been running for hundreds of years. Today, I've got the right people to have that conversation, also because you're trying to throw the light on governance of family businesses, how to do things right. In studio, I've been joined by Professor Martin Roll. Good morning to you, Prof. He's a global expert in family business and family office. And Titi Butendi, co-founder, Africa Family Firms. And via Zoom, I've got Dr. Dennis Oting, CEO, Ravens Consulting. Welcome, gentlemen and ladies. A pleasure to host you here in my studio. So I'll start off with you, Prof, since this is something that you are an expert in. Let's just set the foundation right. When you say a family business, what do you mean?
A business with a heart, because all businesses set out to be entrepreneurs. They did something that was very meaningful in the market, but it happens to be ownership is either fully controlled or led by a family. It could be one or more persons. So that's what distinguishes it from a listed company or a VC or a PE-backed company, that you actually have human beings behind it. One or more shareholders with all that entails from it. That's a family business.
All right. And is it a new phenomenon in Africa? Or better still, let me put it this way. Do the dynamics play out differently? Because elsewhere you see that you have family businesses that have run for hundreds of years. And in the African sense, do we have examples of that, or we run ours quite differently?
I think, to my understanding, and I'm still learning about Africa, so it's good to be here, I think you're younger in a sense. I think you mostly find firms here in the first, second, maybe third generation, with a few exceptions of companies that are older. Of course, in Europe, Asia, and the US, you have companies that are spanning multiple generations. I think simply because of the past of Africa, entrepreneurship, getting out on your own, you see a lot of families at family firms that just started maybe 1 or 2 generations ago. I think the majority of them are still in the first generation, heading into the second one, which is a very interesting stage to be in.
Let me bring in Titi now. Titi, how does the family dynamic, right, influence operations and decisions within family businesses?
I think that it differs. It differs primarily because of governance. In families, when we go into business initially and we're starting up, everybody's all hands on deck. Everybody wants to be involved, or everybody is being asked to be involved and is participating. But as the business grows, now there's a differentiation in terms of who can work for the business and who can't work for the business, and how do you actually get the businesses to work with everybody working together. So when you implement family governance, you're just setting up structures that make it a smoother conversation, from transforming from just speaking as husband and wife, or sister and brother, or sisters on sisters, and you're moving it to having a conversation where you're saying, you are the financial director, I am the CEO, these are the parameters of this relationship that govern this relationship. And just separating those type of emotions and collaborations to make sure that they work together.
I have often heard it said that family businesses are difficult to run. Obviously, we spoke about setting the rules and all, because sometimes it's difficult when you have to play the role of a boss and you're a husband. How do you play the role of a boss to your wife and make sure it doesn't affect your domestic, issues at home? I mean, do you agree that running family businesses need extra effort?
Absolutely. So I am a family business advisor, but I'm also a third generational family business member, and I have my own family businesses. And one of my partners is my husband. And when it comes to the family business, we are very clear in terms of which roles each one of us plays, who makes the decisions on certain things, and how we then govern that relationship, our personal relationship and our work relationship. So we can have an argument at home about something completely different. And when it comes to work, we're very clear in terms of this is the goal that we set in terms of our businesses, this is what we want to do, this is what we want to reach. If we fight and aren't able to collaborate, we affect our income, we affect our financial situation. That then affects our family as a whole. So being able to separate those two roles and being very clear in terms of, okay, this is not personal, this is professional, and then keeping it moving.
Prof, what do you think? A family business is difficult to run. How do we manage the risks and deal with the conflicts?
You have to face the conflicts, and I would say if you, maybe not conflicts, I try to put it as tension. There are tension in all family firms. That tension is actually good. Why? It keeps people hungry. It keeps the entrepreneurship on. And the way to kind of mitigate against maybe to become a conflict is to professionalize the business and put some good governance structures up. You have to remember that family businesses, a lot of the successful ones are businesses with a heart. You have human beings behind it. So you're just going to live with those tensions. So I think it's a very good way of owning a firm and moving on.
Let's talk about sustainability. You mentioned earlier about a lot of family-owned businesses in Africa being at the second generation level. Like I said, I have heard of companies in Europe and in other parts of the world going many, many decades. What is the secret to the sustainability issue?
Is to start planning early, and often the senior generations, they lack planning at a very proper stage, because you have to think about if you want your business to survive for a long time. Most family firms do not build to exit. They build to scale, they build to impact. They want to be here for 100 years. Some of my clients in Asia, they talk about 200 years. So if you want the next generations involved, you're going to invite them to the table. You're going to have a proper discussions with your kids, with your cousins, nephews. Could there be a future for you in the family firm? And you can't start too late about it because people might have gone off to London and somewhere else. So make sure it's an equal playing field with two parties. And often the senior generation takes like their party to the table. They forget that should the next generation play. And often, with all respect to the first generation, but the real upside of a family firm often kicks in the second and the third generation. This is where the real wealth, societal impact, with the respect of the first generation is created, but this is where family business becomes almost institutional. And once you get after third generation, only 2 to 3%, 3 to 5% of the global family firms would survive after the third generation. So once you get over that threshold, you could potentially face a long future.
Right, okay. Let me now bring in Dr. Dennis Oting, who is CEO of Ravens Consulting. And Prof and TT are here because there is the first Africa Family Business Summit being organized here in Ghana. And he would share with us what the idea is. What is the idea, Doc?
Okay, so the Africa Family Business Summit mainly is to gather family businesses on the continent. And also tell the story of successful family businesses. We know, as you rightly said, a lot of stories about outside companies, and the narrative for Africa has to also it has to be told. Not just that, we also want to build a community of family businesses on the continent and give them that power, that voice, in order for them to be able to navigate their way through the economic hardships whenever it comes. So the Africa Family Business Summit mainly is to build a community and also build a network of family businesses on the continent. This year, so apparently this is the second Africa Family Business Summit. Last year, same at Kempinski, June, it was marvelous. We spoke on resilience. But what is resilience when there is no governance for the business? So this year, we are doing the theme, family business governance, a key strategy for continuity. So as Titi said, you have to get the governance right. And this event, we are going to talk more about governance. It will be full of activities We are going to do panel discussions, we do keynote presentations, we're going to do a lot of... one thing I want to mention is that we are going to tell the story of a successful family business in Ghana.
Great.
It is being run by the second generation, and we want to tell that story. So that's mainly about the event. The motivation for this conference is, personally, I work in a family business, and I've seen the challenges of family businesses. And we really have to help build the capacity of family businesses on the continent and also Ghana. And from that premise, I also did my doctoral research in family businesses. So I participated in conferences and I presented in conferences. And I thought it was that, no, we have to help family businesses get it right. Because for my experience, some have started on the wrong note. So we have to help them rewire and then build a stronger family business for the next generation.
That's great. So if you're watching us and you've already conceptualized having a family business, this is an event you must attend. And it's important because you have an expert here and you have somebody who has hands-on experience, is an advisor to family businesses, and you will definitely learn a lot. So, Doc, just run us through the event details.
Okay, so the conference will happen at Kempinski Hotel. It's just tomorrow and Friday. So tomorrow is 29th and the 30th of June. So it's a 2-day event. 29th, that's tomorrow, starts at 3 p.m. 7:30 we are done. And then on Friday, it's a whole day. So it starts from 8 a.m. and then ends at 7:30. So 2 days, tomorrow and Friday. Tomorrow starts at 3 p.m. Friday starts at 8 a.m. at the Kempinski. If you want to register, you call 020-271-2647. 020-271-2647. And you can also search for Ravens Consulting in your Google search, and then you just go to our website and register. I have to mention that we want to invite entrepreneurs, people who have the intention to start businesses with their families. We also want to invite family business owners, family business board of directors, and family business practitioners, lawyers who serve family businesses, fund managers or investment officers who serve family businesses, and even advisors who advise family businesses. We invite all such people to come. Especially, we invite the next generation, because Titi will be doing a masterclass for the next generation, and then Martin Rowe will be doing a masterclass for CEOs. So CEOs and next gen, we invite all of you to come on board, and then we welcome you. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's great you mentioned second generation, because I have heard countless stories of how parents started a certain business and a son or a daughter couldn't continue with it and they had to be sold. Countless. I mean, top of my head, I think I've heard about 4 or 5 of them. And these were really successful businesses. And like Prof was saying, I think as is, and I'm choosing my words carefully because I think I'm not the expert he is. I think what is done in other places that very early on in life, the children are made to believe that this is yours. You must feel a part of it and you must own it. And Prof, just before we wrap up the conversation, I'd like for you to share how business owners can begin to do that with their children.
You start to open up very early that we are a business owning family, but you don't promise the daughter and the son that you're going to take over one day. Not too early, because you might actually squander the opportunity.
Okay.
You want to make sure that your kids get education, that they get a perspective, form their own personality, maybe work outside for a couple of years, which is not a bad idea. And then one day you join the business either to work in the firm, to sit on the board, and or become an owner. So it's a plan over time, but you probably start when they're like 6 to 8 years old. And then you have that serious conversation when you get into your 20s and your 30s. So don't do it too early somehow, but keep the lines of communications open. It shouldn't be a surprise to your daughter, but you're not going to promise it to your son too early either, because it might actually become much more complicated. You want to make sure that your kids are entrepreneurs. And they are able to renew it and bring it to the next level. So they also have a certain hunger they need to have. They need to be motivated. Are you interested? Do you see yourself? Because this is a lifelong project. You don't join a family business for 5 years and then you go to another consulting firm or something. You join family business for life. So it's a bit of a one-way street. And that's a big commitment. It's a big discussion to have.
This is like saying you must earn your spot in the family, right?
In a caring way. So it's not, I'm not trying to push my kids away. So I mean, the elders and the senior generation also have to be a little careful here. Because young people these days, the next gens, are well educated, they're very global. Absolutely. They have other choices. So don't take it for granted that your daughters are going to come back to take all the empire. So it's a communication. It's a dialogue all the time.
All right. Titi, if you don't mind, I'd like for you to share personally, I mean, growing up, I mean, how did you feel a part of the family business? And was it an easy decision for you to say, I want to be a part of it or not?
Well, I'm a third-generation family business owner because entrepreneurship has ran through our family, so from my grandparents to my parents. But with each generation, we failed to transition and had to start afresh.
Whoa.
So that simply entrepreneurship runs within the family, and you see certain family members setting up businesses and carrying on. But then I got married to my husband's family, who have a family business that's been around for 113 years. So what I have seen primarily what's important with family businesses, taking from my husband and the experience I've had in my own family business, is you need to include the next gen in the conversation from day one. They must know what it is that you do, why is it that you do it, and the broader picture of that you are serving people. You are people who are serving people through goods and services, or products and services. You are building communities, you're investing in communities. There's a lot that goes into family businesses. But also the next gen must understand that they can either be stewards or they can understand the fact that being part of family business doesn't mean you have to be part of it and run it every day. You can be an employee of the business or you can just be an owner. And ownership is saying, I'm letting somebody else run the business for the success of the business because I don't believe I can contribute. However, I can sit on other pieces in terms of the family council that makes decisions that then go to the family business and so forth. So there's so many ways next gens can contribute. And as families, we just need to make sure we don't box them in and make them feel like you really have to be working for the business, otherwise you're letting the whole family down. There are other ways that they can participate.
I know you want to hear more. I want to hear more. So please join Titi and Prof and Dr. Dennis Oting tomorrow at 3 p.m. right at the Kempinski Hotel. On Friday, it's an all-day affair. But here's how you can be part. You can just Google Ravens Consultant, and Ravens is R-A-V-E-N-S, R-A-V-E-N-S, Consultant on Google. Get onto their website and then you can register for the program. It's important also because you will be able to secure your life financially, because this is business, right? And then you're able to a large extent, help the generation after you and beyond live a comfortable life. Thank you so much, Prof and Titi, for joining us. And thank you to Dennis for joining via Zoom. Well, before I go, I need to remind you that water is life. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every single bottle on the market refreshes you better. There's a perfect size for all purposes. 330 ml and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. The 19-liter jar bottles are ideal for homes and offices. Here's what you must do. Drink Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. Just choose a bottle of Awake Purified Drinking Water for quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Now remember, for every bottle you buy, you are impacting a life because a donation is made to the National Cardiothoracic Center. This is another quality product by Casapreco Company Limited. Call 026-235-1251, 026-235-1251 for bulk purchases. This advert is FDA approved. I must say a very big thank you to you for all who made time to join us. Hopefully tomorrow we get very interactive with you. I know you have a lot to say on the Assin North by-election. But coming up next, we've got News Desk for you. Happy Eid to all of you. Enjoy the holidays. Take care.